Inn Suites at the university. If you have room and laundry facilities, plus Wi-Fi everywhere. That's Hampton Inn Suites University, right between UVA.
Immunizations, including the COVID-19 vaccine for children 6 months or older. Investments from the Virginia Department of Support for this facing the day is from Price Hyundai. At Price, you'll find the Hyundai Tucson. Tech Forward, Eco Focus for 2022, and available with either a two-step.
IMHO Talk Show.
Jim.
Sir Charles A. Ron. Back for another Sunday, back like we never left. A. Ron, what you think?
What you know,
what you think, brother?
Queen's Finest says, don't call it a comeback. Been here for years.
Well, guess what? You in Virginia right now. Some Queen's Finest.
Come on, man.
Hey, but as we always do about this time, taking CVILLE to the world, bringing the world to CVILLE. Thank y'all, beautiful people. Could be anywhere in the world, but you're here with us. WVAI, your home for today's interactive classics, hip hop and R&B, and all that good stuff. You know, I know I jumped that up, but all that good stuff.
All of it.
Yeah, and if you're in our listening area, 101.3 FM, right about now, tell a friend, because anywhere on God's green earth, you could be streaming us right now. Go to our Facebook page if you want to see our lovely faces, if you want to see my handsome self, and Aaron's I don't know what you call that. Aaron's,
see, this is what we're doing right now.
Debonair. Yeah. And also your favorite streaming app, however you want to reach us, you can get us. So we appreciate it, man. Wellness check last weekend of this month of August that we're live here in the studio. We got a real special show for y'all because it's also the last weekend of Black Business Awareness Month.
Absolutely.
You know, there's that's one I don't mind celebrating. But there's so many holidays and awareness months, I can't keep up with it.
Now, Charles, we do have to give a caveat. Black Business Awareness Month does not mean go ask a black business for a discount.
Wow.
That means you need to be a consumer of their goods and become a normal consumer. It doesn't mean, it's Black Business Month. Can I get 90% off today? That's not what that means.
Big
facts. Please go out there, become a consumer. I don't like to say supporter Because some of the things you support once in a while. Become a consumer of those products, which means a consistent visitor. Same way y'all go to Chick-fil-A, you need to be supporting those businesses.
Say so. You know what?
You ain't gonna give me a bomb. I don't get a flex bomb. I ain't got a bomb, man. I don't get a bomb for that.
Oh, see, you asking a little too much. Asking a little too much.
There we go.
Yeah. So in that regard, that's why we're gonna, we're gonna kick this off this first hour with Miss LANIKA Richardson-Barnes, and then we're going to have a little more of our talking about just business in general in the middle of the show, the second hour. There's a lot going on with that, whether it's folks being able to be employed right now, all that we're going through. Like when it comes to balancing everything, whether we're getting vouchers, whether we're getting, like any kind of stimulus checks, and seeing how that's affecting our economy and particularly Black business.
Absolutely.
And Aaron's specialty, our listeners know that he is a loan advisor, and he can definitely chime in on this whole thing where evictions are spiking right now.
Yeah, I mean, when you weren't kicking people out for almost 3 years, it's inevitable. And some landlords were able to support those mortgages that they had to service, and some weren't. And you got to get paying tenants in those properties. And unfortunately, with rents rising and also vacancies, now is the time for people to start making some plans with family, get your income up. But yeah, it's a tough time out there. Remember, there's always resources available. So don't wait till the last minute. Reach out to your local housing authority, reach out to family, friends, and make some decisions, because obviously living on the street is something unfortunate we're going to start to see a little bit more based upon these current economic conditions.
That's right. And we're going to close out the show with our brother JAEWAR King of Vibe Ride fame. He's, for those that don't know, he's been one of the, one of the wheels that is keeping that Discover Black CVILLE turn. Discover Black CVILLE. So he's going to come on and speak from their perspective, sort of give us the insights on how that came together and what they have going on. So we're going to get into it. We're going to take another quick break and get everything lined up with yours truly, Aaron, Razor, and of course, Miss Max. But before we go to this break, and y'all stay tuned, we're going to come right back with Miss LANIKA Richardson-Barnes, and she's going to be talking about her business that a lot of folks in the community are excited about. If y'all went to Soul of CVILLE Festival, you may have got a chance to meet her. She has the Fire and Ice Bookshop, and she is an educator.
I like that name.
She's an educator. She loves Black children. She loves her job. And so if she has a bookstore, I can't wait to hear, the types of readings and things that she wants to talk to us about, and just her passion behind doing that business.
Absolutely.
All right. Before we go to this break, Aaron.
What's up?
I found out that August is also National Girlfriends Month.
Who said that?
They make up everything. And so in that vein, for those that don't know, this is going to be Aaron's last in-studio show with us. So y'all show some love for Aaron.
Yeah, I appreciate y'all.
Because it's National Girlfriend Month, I guess that's why he moved. Like the timing is impeccable, Aaron. I don't know how you did that one.
Oh, man. Shout out to Tay.
Yeah, for sure. But we got 3 hours to pick on him, so y'all stay tuned. All right, I am HO family. Tell a friend. Be right back with Miss LANIKA Richardson-Barnes of Fire and Ice Bookshop.
Yeah. So we could have played Rick James immediately, like fire.
One of my favorite songs.
One of your favorite songs?
Yep.
You got that link or no yet?
Oh yeah, I'm about to send it to her now.
Okay, cool.
Yeah, that's one reason why I took another break too. He threw me all off and I was ready, and then had to reset the link.
So you're leaving Charlottesville?
Yeah, well, I actually live in Culpeper.
Oh,
yeah, I'll
okay.
be moving to South Carolina.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
So I'm from North Carolina. So,
What part?
a little town called Whitakers. It's like right outside of Rocky Mount, and like in between Rocky Mount and Round
Okay,
Rapids.
yeah, my parents lived in High Point, and they currently live in Jamestown, right outside Greensboro.
Yep.
Yeah.
My baby sister lives in Winston-Salem. Well, a little town right out of Winston-Salem, and my middle sister lives in Charlotte.
Okay, yeah, Charlotte, yeah.
I lived in Greensboro for a little while.
You did? Okay.
Yeah, in Chapel Hill.
Okay.
Yeah, then we moved here about 8 years ago.
Good deal, good deal.
Yeah.
And you teach where you teach?
Albemarle High School.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm a science teacher.
Science?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, I
there you
teach
go.
teach science, and my husband's a teacher too. He teaches business and marketing and all that.
Where's that?
Stuff at Albemarle.
Oh, okay.
So he's downstairs and I'm upstairs.
Oh, y'all teach the same
We
school.
teach the same school.
Oh, okay.
We
So
came
y'all-
here as a package deal.
There you go. All right, cut the check.
Yeah.
Right. That's all good. That's all good. Where'd you go to undergrad?
I went to UNC Chapel Hill for a year, and then I came home to Rocky Mount, and I graduated from North Carolina Wesleyan.
Okay. Where'd your husband go?
He graduated from Shaw University.
Shaw. Okay.
Yeah, uh-huh.
PhD.
Yeah, and our oldest daughter graduated from Winston-Salem State.
Oh, she went to State?
She went to State.
I was just at State. Well, I wasn't there. There's a fish restaurant right down the street from State. And I went there, got this fried red snapper. And then my uncle Charlie, he went there when it was called something different.
It was like
Was it always Winston-Salem State?
I think it was like a school that, but they focused like on music and.
Yeah.
I can't remember what the name of it was, but
my uncle went there. He went there in the 50s when Earl of Pearl was going. When Earl of Pearl went there. So my uncle was a senior when Earl of Pearl was a freshman.
Oh, cool.
Yeah.
Wow.
So they got coming after this?
Cross paths.
Yeah, they was on the same team. And then my uncle was like, yeah, he good. He said, that boy can play. He's like, yeah. So, yeah, Charlie Simmons. That was his name, Charlie Simmons. Yeah.
We they have some a number of notable alums.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. If you look at all the, my dad went to Central, my uncle went to A&T, my mom went to Hampton. I attended Delaware State. So, we got the little HBCU thing going on in the family.
So I got accepted to Hampton, but my mom was she said it was out of state.
All right.
CVILLE's #1 for classics. And interactive hip hop and R&B. You know what it is? 101 Jazz.
What's up, y'all?
Right now.
Alright. And I'm gonna just take the conversation we was having and put it in rap form. I got my chains on.
I never knew the station was like right in Summer Square.
Oh, where do you think it was?
I thought you were in Richmond.
Oh, Richmond? Yeah.
Yeah.
No, it's local. It's right in town. So.
I learn something every day. Because I come to the comic book store a lot.
Oh, really?
Not comics.
Really?
Yeah. And sci-fi and things like
Sci-fi fantasy or something like that. You've been watching the new Game of Thrones thing?
Not yet. I've been kind of paced. I've been really busy, so I want to be able to like.
Focus. My girl gets something. I've never watched an episode of Game of Thrones in my life. Not one.
Not interested.
It's just not.
not George R. Martin.
I don't even know.
I'll tell you. So my husband was not into it. He's not. He says I watch some weird stuff. So, but we watched Game of Thrones. I watched it, and he got hooked.
He did.
So he's ready to watch.
I might watch it. I mean, I didn't watch The Wire when it first came out. I didn't watch The Sopranos.
Yeah.
But eventually I watched it. I'm like, oh, this is decent. So I might check it out.
Yeah, Wire. That was interesting.
Yeah.
Yes.
Not just musically, I'm talking all inclusively, endorsements, fashion.
Are you gonna still be in radio?
Yeah. I mean, we do everything remotely, so I'll still be calling in. It's just I won't be physically. I won't physically be in the state.
That's true.
Yeah.
That's the great thing about technology. I wish public schools would have maintained the course and embrace like virtual
Distance
learning.
learning. My son, his junior year, he loved it, and he did that's the best year he did academically, because he was just like, it's kind of like the level of independence. So he was just like, I didn't, you stay on him, but it was just like, look, you got till 8 o'clock to do this work and knock it out. You pace yourself, you learn your time and stuff like that.
About 30 seconds. Hey, if y'all want to share from our page to your pages too, we're streaming live.
Yeah, forward. Yeah, but the distance learning for a lot of kids, that level of independence and stuff like that, it's helped. But some kids needed the social interaction, but you still should have gave them a choice.
That balance, exactly. Yeah. Exactly. I loved it.
10 seconds.
You're listening to In My Humble Opinion, only on.
I to the Ism, H to the Izzo Talk Show. And as promised, we are back with Mrs. LANIKA Richardson-Barnes. I get the name right?
You did. Thank you so much. I'm so excited to be here.
That's right. Thank you for being here with us today. And so there's a lot of excitement right now going on about your business, Fire and Ice Bookshop.
Yes.
Right. So wow, there's so many angles that that we can tackle this from, because one, you're an educator, right? So right there, love for children. Right?
Yes.
Black female.
Yes.
Right. And so, family woman, you have all these things. So I know that then there has to be a passion behind Fire and Ice Bookshop, and just what that entails when it comes to educating our young people as well as us as adults. So for those that don't know, you kind of give us your background a little bit, and what got you into education, or even which led into the bookshop.
Sure. So I'm from a very small town in North Carolina called Whitakers. Shout out to Whitakers.
Okay.
How many people Whitaker got?
I never heard of it. I'll give you the five.
That's a great question.
Shout out to I think y'all are good 40,000 strong in Whitaker.
Not quite.
My fault.
And we include Rocky Mount, North Carolina.
Y'all good?
Rocky Mount and Whitakers, Halifax County. Yes,
we're there.
Rocky Mount used to be called the City on the Rise, so we're good.
There you go.
But Whitakers, it's just like a small farming town. Family has always been important. Will always be important. And so one of my first introduction to books was at birth. Like one of my first gifts to me. I don't know if everybody gets them, but like the baby Bibles that a family member gives to you. And so my family instilled in me from a very young age the importance of reading and the importance of learning information for yourself and knowledge. My grandmother, she wasn't able to finish school. She had to stop school in the 2nd grade to help care for her siblings. She had 16 siblings. And so one of her goals was to make sure that her children and their children pursued knowledge and education. And so, and Fire and Ice, the name itself just describes like my upbringing and my love for learning, because fire and ice are like two of the most powerful things on this planet.
Absolutely.
And you can never destroy them, right? You can make fire out of something else, burning wood and kindling and things like that. And you can make ice out of water.
Right.
So the cool thing is, I've just taken that, that what's been instilled in me from my family and from my supporters, like throughout my life, whether it be my education, whether it be my careers. I've been a chemist, I've been a geneticist. I teach high school science. I've been an academic advisor. I've taught pre-K, I've taught 5th grade. I had a class of 13 5th grade boys who the system had said, we got to push them through because they didn't do well in elementary school, but we got to get them to middle school. And myself and another Black male educator were able to make sure that they were prepared to go to that next step. So all that's to say, with Fire and Ice Bookshop, my goal is to continue to encourage people from all backgrounds, that the importance of making sure that you take it upon yourself to read about, study, take adventures, embrace like other cultures, embrace other places that you might not be able to physically get to through books. You can do so much just by picking up a book. And especially now when books are being banned. And we know which books are being banned. And I read a quote yesterday that just said, usually when people try to ban, if you are a teacher or if you're an adult and you try to take a book away from a certain group of kids, that means that you're neglecting from providing them information about their peers. And you're also saying that another person's story is not as important as the one that you want to push the narrative on. So I just want to encourage people to get on fire for literacy, and then make sure that you form those solid connections like ice. Ice, the reason that it's ice and it's strong is because of the bonds that it creates. They're strong, they're structured. And as a people, as Black Americans, like I just admire our strength, because we're the only people on this planet that have gone through what we have gone through. we can't pinpoint like this is where my history begins. We can say the continent of Africa, but we know from studying that Africans were in America before Christopher Columbus and a lot of other people. So, but we're the only people on this planet that can't
put that
say.
tinfoil kufi on.
Spitting
that knowledge.
Yeah, but we start here. Like this is our chance, our opportunity to share our story with other people. So I want Fire Nights just to be a place for everybody to come and find a story about them. Yeah. And then that way we can write our own history. We can write our own story. So I know that's a lot.
Yeah, no, great, but that was a great intro. And and Razor, Miss Max, Aaron, and family, we are joined again by Miss Richardson-Barnes, and that is correct, right, Mrs. Richardson-Barnes?
Yes.
Do you go by any other title?
Doctor? You can call me LANIKA. Yep, okay. LANIKA's good.
Yep. I do want to mention she was doing some light stunting on there too. She's like, I was a kid, man. I was a kid. Oh, you know. And look,
she's like, don't play with me.
Don't play. And the other thing I know Charles is going to do, but I do want to acknowledge specifically, her and a black male educator decided they were not going to allow these young black men to fall through the cracks. And so many times, basically, black men are used as either statistics or their bodies are used for memorials.
Yes.
And you guys did not do that.
Right.
You guys embraced them, saw opportunity in them, and saw that they had a shot. So we just need to give you a hand clap and a round of applause and a bomb for that. Because there's so many educators that talk about these children, but don't ever want to engage them. Yeah. Because they think they're dangerous. And then you figure out they're kids.
Right.
Right. You know, they figure out they're kids. So talk about, if you want, before we get to a question, but talk about that experience with you guys working with those young men and some of the things you discovered about not only the boys, but yourselves.
Yes. So when I shifted, so at the time, before I actually went into this classroom, I had stayed at home with she was 4 at the time, our daughter. So I was a stay-at-home mom. Shout out to my husband for supporting a family.
Shout out, for sure.
Yeah, get the missus some love today.
We always gonna give props to a good black man.
Yes, who's also a school teacher. He teaches downstairs. I teach upstairs at Albemarle High School. So that's exciting. But the way I was approached by another educator, a black female administrator in Rocky Mount, North Carolina, to join another black male educator in the classroom to support a group of 13 young men who, for some reason, had either aged out of elementary school. So they were between the ages of 11 and about to be 13 that summer. That school year, or they had failed at least 2 times in elementary school. Right. So I still try to get my head wrapped around that.
Right.
And so our task was to take this group of young men, a lot of them who, rightly had like really bad attitudes, terrible attitudes about education, and a lot of them were frustrated because some of them didn't know how to read, unfortunately. And we were tasked to make sure that they were able to pass the end of grade tests. That's what we call them in North Carolina, in order to move to middle school. And regardless if they passed or not, they're going to have to push them through because of state law. Right. So that being said, we just took the steps that school year to help them both manage the stress, the trauma they had been through, and also embrace, like, just because you're not, for example, on reading level or you're not on math level right now, that doesn't mean we can't give you the tools and resources to build on what you do have. Absolutely. And so by the end of that school year, we were so excited. All of them actually passed their end of grade test, and their attitudes were just so much better about what they could do beyond what they had felt before. Because a lot of them said, like, when I came in the classroom day one, a lot of their teachers were like, we're going to put you in the back because your record says, I know you, I remember you from such and such classroom, and you had behavior problems. Listen. And so when you talk to them, they were like, I've spent most of my time with my head down in the back or in the principal's office. Like, anything I did, it was like bad. Like, if I got excited, about something they read in a book, and they might have got excited about it. If it wasn't normal, quote unquote, or they didn't fit the mold of what a good student, quote unquote, was.
Right.
Like you said, they were considered to sometimes to be threatening, or they were just misunderstood. So I'm just happy that I had that experience, because from that point on, that's when I went into education. And so
Makes sense. Yeah.
so the next step I did, I was academic advisor at my alma mater, North Carolina Wesleyan, as a student success specialist and academic advisor. And most of my students were either international students that I supported, or they were students who weren't prepared for college. And so our task was to make sure that we gave them the tools and resources to be successful. So, and most of them were Black males, and they were on the football team. So that was a great experience for me. So it helped me to transition, hopefully successful. I haven't had any complaints at Albemarle. So hopefully that prepared me to be a successful teacher and to be able to provide students with what they needed at Albemarle. So
awesome. Now give us the other backdrop on the bookshop. So is it just you and your husband, or what led to that? Because like there's book drives, there's different ways to get books in the kids' hands, but what led y'all to wanting to make a business out of it, and like what are some, like some of your, I guess, your mission and your vision for the business?
Yes. So if you ask my husband, he'll say it's all me. He's not a
good man.
Yes.
Smart man.
Yes. So it's all me, but he's been a great supporter. I've always wanted to, and we were having this conversation. I've always loved books, and I'm like a sci-fi nerd. I love comic books. I visit the comic store quite often. Comic book store. Yeah. And I love George R.R. Martin. I love Octavia Butler. But all I was to say is, like, even when I was thinking about a career plan, my goal, like what I envisioned, was opening up like this family bookshop. Like, I don't know if you remember the bookshops with the old ladies had like the couches and the
like lounging.
Like a lounge, and maybe have like some jazz like on the stage. My one of my aunts is like a restaurant manager. She's amazing, and she was like, yeah, I can do the food. And so that's always been a goal of mine. And so as a mother and as a wife, I made the conscious decision to focus on my family, to pour a lot into my family. And now we're empty nesters, believe it or not. And so during the pandemic, like many of our students, I was able to kind of like shift my way of thinking. So I read this quote this morning, and it stuck with me. And I thought about our interview. There's like a rapper that said, he always says that Black women are strong. And the quote was like, sometimes when we say Black women are strong, we forget to undergird them and like lift them up. And so during the pandemic, my husband was like, do it. Now it's this time for you to open your bookstore. We'll figure out a way. So he was like, order some books. And then once you spend that money, you have no other choice but to move forward. And so he was right. Exactly. Right. You got to sell these books. And so that gave me the motivation. Like at night, after we finished virtual school, I would stay up and I built my own website. I learned how to do that. And I did research on like other bookstores, online bookstores, because I knew during the pandemic, it was a great time to start having, for example, like I do free delivery, COVID safe delivery in Charlottesville. So I knew it was a great time to move forward with the online bookstore. And so then it came time to pick out a name. And like I said, as a person who loves science, and knowing about all the elements that make up fire and ice, and just the strength of both of those, and like just being, I love history too, and just knowing like the history of humankind.
Right.
I read a quote that just basically reminded us that fire and ice can coexist. And so that means that we can coexist on this planet, and just move forward. And so the name clicked. Yeah. And so I was like, okay, so I have my books, I have my website, I have done my research, I have a name. And so I'm still figuring out the marketing part, because as an educator, we give a lot of things out for free. Right. And so I'm still working on that entrepreneur social
Yeah, they got
entrepreneur
lots of
part.
books. They got lots of books.
Somebody got to buy some books. Exactly.
Y'all go to Fire Nights and buy some books. We can't give these to y'all.
Please do. Please do. And it helps us with book donations too. So twice a year, my family gives me books. They buy books and we donate them to our communities.
Okay.
But we hope to make that more once Fire Nights grows. So my goal is to make sure that books are accessible. New books are accessible. Gently used books are accessible. And so my thought was, why can't I bundle books like for example, like bookstores bundle t-shirts, hats, and sweatshirts.
Okay.
So if you've ever been to one of my pop-ups, or I've had a few so far this year. Thank you everybody who has made that a possibility.
Absolutely.
For example, you can get 3 books for $30. And the books that you get are the books that you would pay $30 for one each in a bookstore. And, I think we would all love to be wealthy or rich. And I still, when I think about wealth, I think about legacy. And so if I can put a book in a father's hand, a mother's hand, and their child's hand, that's building wealth, because that's building wealth of knowledge that they can transfer on. If I can put a book in the hands of a mother and a child, because their school says, oh, we can't talk about you having 2 moms. And, just because we don't talk about something doesn't mean it doesn't exist.
Absolutely.
As people, they've tried that for a long time and we're still here, so our stories are still here. They're still important.
Absolutely.
So my goal, my vision, my mission as the owner of Fire Nights, one, to make sure that people know that you can look at me and you can do it too. So if I can do it, you can do it. That's the same thing I think about in my classroom. I'm one of very few Black female STEM educators in the country. A lot of us go and I did it myself when I graduated. I went to private sector, but by students seeing me, we're seeing, and not just me, there's others, of course, but I can do it. I can pursue science. I can pursue math. I can pursue engineering. I work at summer camps, just to make sure, in the academies in the area, to help make sure that young people see I can, be a STEM educator and I can be an entrepreneur.
Right.
What do you mean? How can you do this? And I can be, a productive member of my community and, uplift my family. Yes, you can do it.
That's awesome.
You just need that model.
That's
so,
right. You are the
Hey,
mom.
Charles, not to interrupt, but I believe
Miss Max. Oh, Miss Max, you got
Razor has
something. Razor got something. Look at that. Look at that teamwork right there. What you got, Razor? Talk to me, brother.
First off, I want to thank her for coming in, but I want to go back to something that she said earlier. Speaking of the young Black men, when you find out that they might not be reading on level, right? And then you teach them, you work with them, and they have a level of success. How do you combat when they go out into the world and then the world reminds them that they're inadequate? How do you keep their focus and keep them pushing forward?
That is an awesome question. So one of the things that I can speak of, at Albemarle and in our county, is we want to make sure that they know that we're still there for them once they graduate. So it's not just a one-shot deal. It's not while you're at HS or while you're in Charlottesville or in surrounding areas. That's it. Once you graduate, we're not here for you. So one of the things that we definitely try to do is try to connect them with people in their area. So for example, one of the organizations I work with is NSBE Junior, the National Society of Black Engineers at HS. And one of the things that we do is we try to help them connect with mentors once they graduate at their colleges or university, or if they go out to, for example, on the career path, we remind them that you can always come back. This is always home for you. And one of the things too that Fire Nights that I try to do at our bookshop is I offer one-on-one literacy and reading connection conversations. So that way, when young men or young women or whomever it is, they leave the bookshop, they know they can always come back and contact me,
like a safe space.
Like a safe space.
Yes,
And,
awesome.
and like for me, for example, if I didn't have like my family support, it was very much unheard of unless you watch a horror Star Trek for a young Black girl to love science fiction and fantasy. Like, and so I was, like I was one of very few. It wasn't cool. Like, so if I didn't have people in my circle, my support circle, even after I graduated, that I could come back to, and they could like, you know, uplift me and encourage me and provide me with those tools and resources, I would be in trouble, you know. So we try to offer those same things.
Some of the most beneficial stuff isn't always the cool stuff.
Exactly.
That's something as a culture we got to do better with teaching. Miss Max.
Yeah. No, I was just gonna say there's so many things that I love about the project that you have and the bookstore and whatnot. You know, I have a 5 and 7 year old kids that are at Greenbrier right now, and I opened up a book to read to them one night last week. And as I cracked the book, my 5 year old said, "Ooh, I can't wait." And it was like, you know, I know, right? Like the reaction, the response to reading a book, like it almost like, I mean, I was just so like overjoyed with him having that type of reaction to reading a book. And, unfortunately, there's still a lot of stigma around a Black youth, a Black person picking up a book. You know, it's not for us. The issue of not reading well, it's boring, it's this, it's that. And that's something that I think that we're making progress in terms of our kids wanting to read and not looking at it as not cool or what have you. But we still got such a long ways to go. And just for people to understand that there's so many benefits to actually reading a book. You can use your imagination and disappear to anywhere in the world. You are in that book. You can relate to that book. You can educate yourself by that book. And so, yeah, I would. We've, like I said, we've made progress. We still have a long ways to go. So huge kudos to you for helping to move the needle on that and show our Black kids that not only is this okay, but you see someone that looks like you doing this, because that goes so far. One of the things that also came to mind listening to the discussion is, I guess what would be the convenience of Audible, and Audible is magical for a lot of us, right? But to some degree, I do feel like it's robbing our kids, making them lazy readers. And so I wanted to just know what your thoughts were on that.
Yes. And big props and thank you to you for reading with your loved ones, because that's where it starts. I love that. I love that. I've been to Greenbrier a couple of times, so but I definitely think that there is room for Audible and paper books, and because I do that myself. So one of the things that I always try to do, actually I've been successful so far, is I read every book that I purchase from my bookstore before I put it on the shelf, because I want to make sure that it's something that I want to make sure that I can have valuable conversations. And one of the ways that I can do that is by listening to the book audiobook. So and a lot of times, and I encourage my students to do this too, we have through Albemarle County, and I think Charlottesville City Schools has it too, but we have a connection with the libraries with this organization called SORA. And I don't know if your grandchildren have access to this, but one of the things it offers is audiobooks and ebooks for free. And one of the things that I do is I try to utilize audiobooks, or I buy them, or I listen to them through the library, and then I'll order the book and then I'll read them. So I think it's a great, because we're moving to more things being virtual and online, and students are their eyes are strained a lot of times from having to use computers so much in school.
Absolutely.
I do encourage people to, if you can access the audiobook, to keep, your young person or your mind. Like I had to do it too when I'm riding in the car. It stimulates your mind, and then you may say, oh, I need to pick up that book because I want to hold it. And that's one of the things about Fire and Ice. I copyrighted something that came to my mind. I was like, one of the things, like you said, one of the things that you said really peaked. It really hit home with me. Reading had become something that was boring for a lot of people. But food never is boring for a lot of people. So I was like, well, why can't I create like a reading menu? So what I did was I thought about how I decide what book I'm going to read. So I pick it or when you go to a restaurant, you pick up a menu. So when you go into a bookstore, even if it's like online or ebook, you're going to read with your eyes first. So if the cover catches your eye, you're going to want to like pick it up and hold it and turn it around. And even for like an ebook or audiobook, that cover is going to catch your eye, or that title. And then you already know, usually when you go into a bookstore or a library, how much time you have to read or how much interest you have in reading, just like you do when you go in a restaurant. Sometimes you want an appetizer, sometimes you want an entree, sometimes you want a whole meal. And so I encourage people to think about reading that way too. You know, I'm happy to say that I'm 44 years old. Every year is great. So I'm 44 years old. Yes, 44 years old. Yes. It's almost time for me to move to that other section where you check the 45 to But one of the things, like, if I don't have a lot of time to read, I can know that I want like an appetizer, a short book, or short ebook. And so you can do the same thing in my bookstore. You can go to like the cool lit section, and there's no books there, no more than 50 pages long. But you know, you're going to get some pictures, you're going to get some great illustrations, some great character development, usually a good message in a children's book. So, and the same thing with ebooks and audiobooks. The good thing is that you'll know how much time you have.
Right.
What about people that stutter?
People that stutter?
Yeah, what about, I know when I came up as a kid, there weren't many kids that stuttered, but the ones that did stutter, reading, because you think about reading and you think about reading out loud, and they would shy away from that. So how should a person, you know, that stutters or used to stuttering and doesn't want to be like kind of exposed or vulnerable, how should they look at reading?
I say look at reading as a tool of management. And when I say management, stuttering is we all have something that may cause us to shy away from reading, whether it's we read too slow or we're shy. I tell my students all the time that the President of the United States still deals with a stuttering problem, and he's the President of the United States. So what I do, I know as a teacher, I encourage my students to practice. And then I encourage my colleagues to not put students in a situation, and people encourage me to do this too, allow those students to deliver information about what they learned in another way. So for example, if you've worked hard and you've read the book, to yourself or at home or in another safe space, there are other ways that you as a person can share what you've learned in that book with your classmates. And I know when I get excited, I say like a lot or a lot, or I say a lot. So, but I would just encourage that student. I'll encourage that person that whoever is the reader is to use reading as a tool of management, because a lot of times people stutter. It's like a genetic or a brain function that you can't avoid, but it's manageable. And I always tell people, think of it as a superpower. It just makes you different.
Hey, there you go.
It makes you stand out. And I just encouragement, I think for so many people would go a long way of removing stigmas from reading. And then putting a book in, or a comic book or an article that is of interest to someone in front of them gives them, just that strength and motivation to say, I can do this. I'm interested in it. And, just surround yourself with people who are going to support you.
Yeah,
That's a great question.
Yeah, and thank you once again, Lanika. So we did have a comment online. They want to know the website. So it's www.fireicebookshop.com.
Yes.
Correct?
Yes.
Fireicebookshop.com.
Yes.
And so, like, we are talking about like a lot of nerdy, uncool stuff. Like let's be real about this thing. Let's be real about this thing. We black folk in here talking, and we talking about the power of reading.
You.
And the need, and the need, like to up our literacy, and all the benefits of it.
Yes.
You as an educator, right? So you sort of have the educator hat and you have, the business owner hat. Mm-hmm. What would be your tips to, I guess, two different people? Mm-hmm. Tip to that, like the adult that, that should engage in reading more, but mm-hmm. maybe more importantly, how we communicate to our kids or to our young people, what's your tips on getting them engaged? Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? So you as the educator talking to the bookshop owner, right. What would the educator tell the bookshop owner, how to engage the young people about the importance of this?
Definitely. So I would encourage as an educator, I would encourage the bookshop owner to take some time to get to know what the reader is looking for,
right.
What their interests are. And it's okay to ask them or to present options. And that's one of the things I think for adults and for young people, not having options to decide mm-hmm. what you want to read has been detrimental to literacy. Mm-hmm. I can remember, so I love reading. I love reading pretty much anything, but you can only, if you have no connection to 17th century England, and that's the only book that you have, the only option that you have in terms of reading in your classroom, mm-hmm. you're going to lose interest. You're not going to want to read.
Right. Yeah.
So as an educator and a bookshop owner, my throat's a little dry, I'm sorry. I do apologize. As an educator and a bookshop owner, I would definitely say have options available. And I apologize. I talk all the time in class. And
no, you're good. Take your time. You're good. We can have some water, y'all. We ain't out here.
Hey, Ron got that cocoa butter on again. That's what it is.
Oh yeah, she getting mystified by the aroma.
Yes, I love the cocoa butter.
Shout out to the Shea Butter.
Yeah, but walking into the wrong bookstore can get really awkward.
It can.
Because you see the people don't look like you. Right. The people that work there aren't quick to help you. Mm-hmm. And if you're looking for a specific book or you want a recommendation, having trouble finding stuff and things like that, it's not. That atmosphere doesn't exactly make it easy to open up and speak to the person working at the bookstore, because it's kind of, for a lot of people, that's not a personal conversation, but to some degree it is. Right. It requires a level of vulnerability, maybe. I'm not sure the right word that I'm looking for. And so
I'm sorry.
Yeah, no, I was just going to say, when it comes to how people that work at bookstores can help the people that can serve the people that are coming in, mm-hmm. what you had started to say, at least, was very accurate, because right. it's a whole thing, right. If you know what I mean, to walk into a bookstore and have to deal with people that can't relate or don't exactly look like you, or you pick up a certain vibe from.
Mm-hmm. No, I want to add one thing. The other thing, Max, and I wholeheartedly agree with that, is that, so for myself, I relate so much to your story, because my grandmother, I think she finished the 4th grade. Mm-hmm. My granddad finished the 6th grade. But my father had the library.
Yes.
And I started to and I have a library now, we just have a ton of books. Mm-hmm. But I noticed how many Black families I would go in their homes, and I did not see any books. Mm-hmm. I mean, you ain't seen nothing. The only book you saw was Jet and Ebony.
Yes.
And that's
good. On
and some of y'all was only going to one page in Jet. So, but But yeah, you caught that.
That boy stupid. That boy stupid.
Yeah.
That ain't reading, y'all.
He telling on himself, Ray. He telling on
Yeah,
himself.
that boy stupid.
Charles rubbing his hands with his hands at but no, I just noticed that so many people didn't have libraries,
Right.
and it was easy to see the correlation
Right.
of lack of literacy
Mhm.
because the family in general
Mhm.
was not reading.
Right.
Can we
Right.
talk about
Mhm.
just some easy ways? Because we have families that are out there, we have single moms, single dads, families married, for the importance of a family, even if it's one or two books, for you as a parent,
Right.
for your kid to actually see you reading a book.
Yes, yes, that is very important. And I tell people all the time too. Books are like I grew up. My dad bought us the encyclopedia sets,
Shout out to Britannica.
and we still have the 2 volumes of
Mhm.
African American history that
That's
were published when I was growing up, like at home. But it is definitely very important for families to read together. And I want to encourage parents because I know a lot of times we forget, like you just said, like parents only can give students what they have at that time.
Mhm.
And we're growing every day as parents. And so it's okay for parents to pick up like a children's book and read with their teenager. Because I still read children's books. Like my girls, they still like get children's books for their adults as like gifts, and
Right.
because it's important to start somewhere.
Yeah.
So even if you pick up a book, one of my favorite books to give to families, and I give them to my high school students that are going through a lot, it's called All Because You Matter. And it's written, it's a story written by a mother to her son, because his name is unusual. It's a Black mother, and written to her Black son to say it's okay for you to embrace who you are.
Right.
But it's a story that that can be transposed into all families. Like you are made of matter. So no matter if someone says you don't matter, they're wrong from the start, like from the jump, because we're all made of matter, and matter cannot neither be created nor destroyed by human hands.
That's right.
So I would definitely say it's important for you to read something in front of your child. So whether it's you pick up a newspaper and y'all read the sports section together, if that's what you're interested in, that's a good start. If you see an article on your phone about your child's favorite rapper, I cannot, I'm still growing, I'm Gen X, so I have my specific like group of rappers and artists that I like, but I'm trying to learn because I'm a high school teacher. But sometimes I have to stretch, if I find articles about musicians that my girls like. I know
that's not even a name,
right? And I'm like, I remember telling my daughter, I was like, I just saw that Little Baby's from North Carolina, and she was like, yeah. And so I found her article, and then we read it together. And then that was something that we could talk about. Or so, like you said, it's so important for them to see something, either if it's on your phone, because we all have these, and they're like part of our extremities. Have something in your home that represents literacy, because if studies have shown that the students who are most successful in American schools are the children that come to kindergarten with a more extensive vocabulary. That is the common denominator. And it's not if they can count to 200 when they get to the classroom.
It's how they communicate.
It's how they can communicate and how they can. Right, exactly. Yep. So if you can get that, if parents can get that vocabulary up by reading, I love Gracie. She and if you have little people, Gracie versus Cocomelon, that's like the conversation. But if you can get them in front of something and they can see themselves in that something and make it cool, if seeing a big picture book about LeBron James, Kobe Bryant, something positive that somebody's you know, that's positive in their lives. Rappers, I tell people all the time, rappers are literary MCs are literary geniuses. If you can get a book, one of Tupac's books in front of your child who likes hip hop,
that's right.
He's a poet. You know, he could manipulate words like Shakespeare. It's just different. So if you can get something
I know
that
we have to.
Oh, I'm
No,
sorry.
we have to take. I know that we have to take a break really quick, but I do want to slide this in here as far as parents and just working with their kids, or rather specifically how they respond to their kids when they're teaching them to read or helping them to read. And this truly comes from experience from my childhood. But parents also, I would tell each parent listening that you have to be aware of how you respond to your children when they are learning to read, when you're trying to teach them to read or working with them to read, because the wrong reaction can really stifle a child. Like you you can't really see how deep certain negative responses go when they're in those I can't think of the word I want to use, but those stages of life where they're and then they're trying to learn something, and the person that in their home that's responsible for loving them and teaching them has a negative, horrible responses to them getting it wrong, can throw them off track before they're even really on it. And so I tell every parent to really listen to that, really understand that, and just be supportive and patient and work with a child. The end goal is to help them get there. And you're teaching them because they don't know it. And so it requires a level of patience. And I just want to put that out there. Parents need to hear that.
Yes.
Yep. Thank you. And do you have another moment to hang with us?
Sure.
Yeah, we just got a break for the top of the hour.
Sure.
We'll come right back and wrap up with you. Make sure you we cover all the bases.
Beautiful.
Yeah, because this don't want to rush you, because this is a very fruitful conversation. We appreciate having you.
Thank you.
Yeah. So we are with Mrs. LANIKA Richardson-Barnes, and she is co-owner of Fire and Ice Bookshop, and that's fireicebookshop.com. Stay tuned. We will be right back to wrap up with LANIKA.
Black people. I thought Troy gonna run in here with a wall.
West Main Street.
Here we
near
go.
The train station.
Hold on, wait. You're listening to In My Humble Opinion, only on 101.3 Jams.
In My Humble Opinion talk show, Sir Charles, Miss Max, Razor, Ron. We're still here with Fire and Ice Bookshop, and there's fireicebookshop.com. Co-owner, Mrs. LANIKA Richardson-Barnes.
Yes.
One more time. Fire Ice Bookshop. Yeah. So LANIKA, thank you. This is such a fruitful conversation. We didn't want to rush off. Want to make sure, that all hearts and minds are clear, as we used to say in the church, Max. All hearts and minds. But one good conversation came up that during the break there. When it comes to things like the hooked on phonics, there was one called Muzzy. I don't know if y'all remember Muzzy. He was a big furry like monster, and you could get it in different languages.
Yes.
That one seemed to work better, for my kids, because one, it was a cartoon, and they were able to relate to languages and stuff like that. But what's your take on those kind of things? Hooked on phonics worked as well. That works great for kids. But as far as engaging them and reading that way, you can even go back even further. I hear people say that when the baby's in the womb, if you got that book and you talking from that time on, or reading from that time on, that you're developing a love for reading.
Yes.
But what's your expertise and take on those methods?
I definitely think that, like we were talking about before, any educational tool like Hooked on Phonics, I think now it's ABC Mouse is when it's very popular. Okay. For young children. I have a grandson too, he's 5, and my daughter uses ABC Mouse. And especially if your children are used to using electronic devices for learning. And pronunciation is so important, no matter the dialect or the dialogue or the language. One of the things that I wanted to encourage everybody who is interested in increasing or growing in literacy, especially if you have young people, and I think someone said it earlier, discouragement is probably the thing that you don't want to do. But having tools like that is definitely going to encourage reading, because people can go at their own pace. So if you're an adult and you weren't able to embrace reading like you probably wanted to at a younger age, there's nothing wrong with you subscribing to ABC Mouse to learn some of those intricacies as far as like breaking words down, because as you get older, people expect you to be able to read words like 26 letters in it. And it's okay for you to use tools like I've had people come to the bookstore and ask me, for example, well, do you sell dictionaries? Do you sell like English and English to Spanish dictionaries, like bilingual dictionaries? Or do you sell books that are in various languages with authors from different cultural backgrounds? And if I don't have it in my store, I will definitely get it for you. So even though I know we talked a lot about the Black community, please know that books are available at Fire and Ice for any community.
That's right.
It's about building community. And like you said, I think with the loss of things like Muzzy and Hooked on Phonics, because education shifts, but it still goes in cycles. Sometimes we do lose those tools to help communities engage in reading. So I think those are important.
Some areas that didn't work. Real quick, Ms. Max is like Aaron would have like a book report, and he would watch the movie. Can you tell him that watching the movie is the same as reading the book?
I was gonna say, if you think about like the episode of Cosby Show when Theo and Cockroach listened to on the record player, and they got it all wrong, but that's okay.
I did a book report on Jesus, and I watched Indiana Jones, and it worked. The last crusade, it was all there.
The Ark of the Covenant. I remember.
Oh wow!
Look at that.
Forgive me if I missed this portion of the interview, but do you have a collection of books from local authors at your bookstore? And how would a local author get their book in your store?
Great question.
So that is an excellent question. So we just celebrated our first birthday our first business anniversary at Fire Nice Bookstore in July. And I'm so glad you asked that question because that's my next goal. So hopefully by mid-September, I will be able to have a calendar of local authors on like to come in and do interviews via like my website. So yes, please do. If you have any, if there are any local authors in Charlottesville that would like a platform, you know, through Fire and Ice Bookshop, please send me a message at my website, www.fireicebookshop.com, so that we can get you on the calendar. And we can definitely discuss, because like I said, I would love for Fire and Ice to be my semi full-time, but you know, I think that's all entrepreneurs. But at this point, you know, my goal is to make sure that I work with the community to get those books in people's hands. And we can definitely talk about, I know it'll be different from author to author, what the author's needs are in order to get the book on my shelves. But I would love to put as many local authors' books on my shelves as possible.
Yeah, that would be dope. Yeah. And one of the things I wanted to mention, I've mentioned it on the show before, but wanted to say it to you, because this is something that actually not only will help with the desire to read, but also it will fix our generational gaps when it comes to the music you were talking about.
Yes.
Between what we listen to and what our kids may be listening to. Is like I challenge my kids to actually look at the lyrics, like whether you Google it or print it or whatever, like you pull up the lyrics and then read it.
Right.
Now, does it still sound good? Does it still make sense?
Right. Exactly.
And you know, and then like that's actually made them now look at even hip hop music in a different way. Like not to say that, you know, that they don't listen to what they like what they like. Right. But at the same time, that opens their minds to some of the music that I may like more, because now they're like actually paying attention to the lyrics, know that it's not just the beat. You're actually, your brain is retaining these things.
Definitely.
You know, even if it's subconscious.
Definitely. You're absolutely right. And when you're thinking about, like, and this putting on my school teacher hat. So one of the things that I tell my students is if music is what gets you hooked, like if a beat is what gets you hooked, then put a beat to what you're learning. So like it's okay to like listen to music while you read. Try to find the instrumental version of something, a song that you like, and then read while that beat is going through your head.
Right, that's right.
And it's just like learning a song. And I was like, read aloud, like pretend like you got a mic. And I know they're doing this on TikTok now. They're making mics out of anything. But like, you know, you can imagine. That's the awesome thing about reading. You can imagine that you're that superstar in the booth recording your song, even though you're learning about like, for example, genetics. Put your favorite beat on your headphones and then read aloud.
That's right. And
do it over and over again. Practice makes perfecting. And it'll stick. And students will come back and be like, Ms. Barnes, you were absolutely right.
Right.
Yeah. Or draw it out. You know, a lot of authors are also artists in their own right, like visual artists. Like,
Ms. Barnes,
draw it out.
Yep, that's right.
Ms. Barnes, I know a lot of kids that are underprivileged. Reading is the first vacations that they go on.
Definitely.
Right.
Definitely.
Yeah.
Yes, you're absolutely right.
Yeah, and you talk about the leisure time raiser, just like with everything, like kids are watching us when we don't know that they're watching. So when we decide to read the paper, when we decide to read a book, and we just be randomly sitting in the house, the kid is seeing that. So they're going to grow up realizing that in some of my parents' leisure time, they read. That's what they did. You know, and then of course, the people you have around, like Aaron be sending me these books and stuff to read, and that's dope. Like when you have friends that don't have text, like you're talking about grown black men, they're like, yo, this is book I'm reading. Check this out.
Exactly. Exactly.
Yeah. But definitely, I'm sorry, but before you leave though, we definitely want you to pitch how people can support, because you have some great goals and we're behind you 100%. But when it comes to achieving these, how can you mentioned how people can reach out, fireicebookshop.com. Yes. But what are some of the ways that we can help to keep growing this bookshop?
So exactly what you just mentioned is like one of the best ways that the community can support. If there's a book that you see that may not be on our shelves, that you would like to read, I tell people all the time, I have a great distributor, and my goal is to make sure that we can get that book in your hand at a price that's affordable to you. So like I said, and if we need a bundle, you know, so the more titles I have, the more people contact me, be like, LANIKA, I am so interested in learning about, I have this beautiful book called Glory, and it just talks about like Black beauty and like hairstyles, and just it's a picture, like it's an adult picture book. And somebody contacted me about it, and it sold off the shelves because people didn't know it was out there. But that's because I got a customer recommendation for the book.
Right.
So please share with me some of the titles that you would like. Also, if you are part of an organization that supports young people, it could be through STEM, it could be for literacy, it could be anything, and you would like to partner, please let me know, because I was sharing that my family loves to donate books. We're from North Carolina, but they are big believers in literacy. And I want to honor today my Aunt Aletha, who is a big inspiration. She was a librarian for a long time in Nash County. She passed away 2 years ago from COVID, but she inspires my family to continue to push young people to read. Yeah. So my family donates books for me to donate to community organizations. So let us know if you need books donated to your organization. And I just want to be present. Yeah. I
got books.
Yeah, but just let me know if you need me. I love it.
Absolutely.
Yeah, just let me know.
And
if
have you
need
started a do you have a book club, or is that still something in the works?
So our first book club is gonna roll out in September. So I am excited about the first book club, and so I will definitely be publishing that information on the website. Thank you so much for asking about that. But yes, I would love to do book clubs. I would love to do like teas or different book clubs for different age groups and for different groups of people virtually. And I have a tent, and so my next step is to put Fire and Ice on the road.
Okay.
So that we can have like book circles and big book groups like in different areas. So yes, please be on the lookout for those book clubs.
Look at God, Max. You remember you were talking about doing a book review on the show? You remember that?
Yeah, I remember.
And Miss Max, I would love for you to join us for our first book club. So I'll definitely be staying in touch.
Okay, sounds good.
Yeah, we gotta get Max in the Audible game too. You hear that voice? You hear that angelic voice?
I know. Yes.
Get her in the Audible game.
Yes.
But yeah, and so book club also makes you think about like book buddies.
Yes.
You know, there you go. You got to wear the teacher hat again.
Yep, gotta wear it.
Do they still do that? Folks still just kind of volunteer going to the school and read the kids?
They do in elementary school, and I would definitely encourage the community to try to think about doing the same for middle school and high school. That's where we definitely start to see a drop in literacy scores and trips to the library to check out books. So please consider going to your local middle school and high schools and do like read alouds. In my science classes, I do read alouds for my students still. We read children's books, like for example, during Native American Indigenous Peoples Month, we read this cool book called Fry Bread. And that's because you can talk about different aspects of fry bread. You can talk about community. You can talk about the macronutrients that are in fry bread. You can talk about the history of people. And it's a children's book. And so my students like that break. They like that brain break from having, to read things on quote unquote their reading level. But anything is on your reading level. So it gives them a change of pace, and it kind of hooks them. Well, maybe I need to go to see what other books that are in the library that are connected to what I just learned. So please, if you want to be a book buddy, you can let me know, and I can reach out to other high schools and middle schools in the area.
Yeah, definitely keep us posted, because we have a couple of our viewers on online too that's excited about a book club.
Beautiful.
So yeah.
Yes, please contact me.
Charles, can I say one thing before she leaves? It is very refreshing to hear, and I'm not just to hear a black educator that is attempting to be as creative as possible to meet the kids where they are.
Yeah.
You do not, and listen, my mom was a speech therapist, and she taught at Lexington School for the Deaf in New York City for like 30 years. And she said, you would be surprised about the lack of, particularly Black teachers, that would not try to be as creative as they could to meet the babies where they are.
Right.
And it's just good to hear somebody that knows our kids need help. And I think that's one of the problems is that we have a level of pride. And no, we got to go, but we have a level of pride in our community to where we don't have it based upon the results. But if everybody would put their thinking caps on, use their brain computers, and be like this wonderful young lady right here and say, look, I don't care if they're in high school. We're going to read this book out loud.
Exactly.
I don't care if your baby's that you need to look, get on your cell phone. Read the article with them. You don't want to read Little Baby? I don't care. We're going to read Little Baby. But that's somebody that
like that, man.
Well, Max is out. It's all right, Max. I know. But
meet them at their need. Meet them at their need.
need.
Instead of saying Black boys are problematic because they don't learn the way that traditionally is taught to learn.
Right.
You know what I mean? Meet them at their need. Like that's a great educator. We definitely applaud you.
Definitely appreciate
Thank you. And I think a lot comes down to that. We're strong people. So, but we have to be able to, like you said, our strength lies in our creativity. A lot of different cultures emulate what we do.
Absolutely.
And that's been a hot topic, and we talk about that in my science classes. Like, it's the genetic side of that, and like the nature nurture part of that.
Right.
So
Absolutely.
you're absolutely right. We have to let's use our gift. Let's use our gifts and what we're blessed with as a people. We are creative people. So thank y'all so much.
That website need to crash right now. Y'all can buy every book on that website. I said.
Yeah.
And if you don't see it, let me know and I'll get it for you.
Absolutely.
And I do free delivery in Charlottesville. So I know Amazon drops packages off. Fire and Ice does the same thing.
There you go.
So
Miss Max, you
got all areas covered, girl. All areas
covered. Miss Max, you got the last word. You want to take us to break?
Yeah, I was just really going to piggyback off of what Aaron just said, because not only is it her taking the time to get creative and meeting people where they are, but it's the right person, the right gift, doing the right thing. And so many times we got teachers, or if you want to expand that to other occupations, your police officers and your doctors and your nurses and whoever, and working in areas that they shouldn't be because they're not there for the right reasons, and it shows. And so that's really all that I want to say, is that I appreciate what you're doing. Thank you. You are exactly what our kids and this community needs. And any way that IMHO can support, and our community should be standing behind you 110%, then let us know. Don't be shy about that. And it was a pleasure talking to you.
thank you.
Thank you.
Thank y'all so much.
Shout out to the Mr. too. Shout out to the honey. Yeah.
Yes.
That was
Thank you
good.
so much. I was nervous.
Yeah, you did.
Okay.
About the road. Here we go.
In my humble opinion, only on
In my humble opinion, talk show, Sir Charles, Miss Max, Razor, Aaron. We are here, still standing. And we are on the flagship station live right about now. This lovely last weekend of August. We are your home for today's and classics, interactive hip hop and R&B. How you like that, Razor? That sounds pretty good.
Hey, that sounds real good. I don't think you got my mic on. Look, trying to steal my shine.
My bad. Charges to the head, not the heart. Hey, look, I'm gonna tell you just like I told Aaron.
Yes,
y'all sit over there complaining, and I'm over here with octopus arms.
Yeah, hey, I see you be
doing a
working.
great job. You doing a great job.
You're doing a great job now.
Yeah, great job.
He be over there like a
What's that one? Get my mic on. Get my mic on.
Ain't that like our people? Hey, look, you doing everything. Like, nah, you're doing good. You're doing good.
DJ such and such.
Yeah. DJ always into something.
Yeah. But
appreciate it.
Great show so far. I appreciate y'all, man. And couldn't let LANIKA go easily because she's a wealth of knowledge, and I hope everybody benefit from that conversation as well. I think so because folks were commenting online, and I'm excited about that book club, Miss Max. What you think, Miss Max?
No, it was a great conversation. Who would have thought that talking about literacy could be so fun and exciting? And I'm glad she's part of the Charlottesville community, and I hope we stand behind her.
Absolutely. And we got much more show. Like we said, they calling this, one of the many holidays and awarenesses is August is now National Black Business Month. And so, hey, we all, Black businesses up in here. And so, and we got love for y'all. So we're going to talk about it. We're going to have JAEWAR end of the show, but we're going to, do our banter in between. Razor, what's up?
Y'all, I can't. I've been holding it. I can't do it.
What's up?
Hey, Aaron.
What you holding?
I noticed your last show inside the
live. My last show live. I ain't dying.
That's why we mentioned
it. Like I'm dead, man.
But the thing is, man, I want to tell you how much I love you.
Yeah.
How much I appreciate you.
Come on, man, don't make it weird, man. We for real.
Yeah, but what you yeah. See, he's a crier. That's the problem. He's a big baby. That's what the problem is. But honest to goodness, man, like even though you're not further away than we can drive or fly or anything like that, man, like just what you've been inside the studio, the catalyst you've been to make sure that you supported each and every one of us every time we was part of something, man. I'm gonna miss you.
Yes, indeed.
You know what I'm saying?
I appreciate that.
Yeah, I mean, I finally get a chance to smell fresh air today. But nevertheless, I'm gonna miss you, man.
Hey,
I'm a sponsor. We just gonna rub all the walls and get some sense up in this show. That's what we do.
He moving down south, man. Like he gonna get the finest of the shape, bro.
Yes, indeed. Right off the boat.
Y'all crazy.
Yeah, but thank you, man, for everything.
Absolutely, man. For sure. And I met you through Razor, but definitely you made me a better person, been a great friend. And so, we definitely gonna stay in touch. I'm gonna bug you. Don't think you're gonna move and get away from us.
I'm not running. Y'all are like family. I will say something before we get out the end of the show is that when I came on, I didn't know anything about broadcasting. I didn't know anything about anything.
Yeah.
But the fact that y'all wanted to hear my voice meant a lot. And I remember, I remember Troy and Max when I met them. Y'all was at that school, that journalism school.
Wait a minute, no. You got to give it justice. That's when Max was being honored at the
I can't remember.
National Geographic in DC.
And that's when I met y'all
for going to Columbia School of Broadcasting.
Yeah, Columbia School of Broadcasting. And then at that point, I was going through my little phase. I want to be on the radio, whatever. And then it died. It just died. And then I remember Razor approached me. He's like, yo, we doing this little radio show, whatever, you can come on. And then, because Razor and I have had a relationship, he cut my kid's hair. Then I met Max, and then I met Charles. And then, man, I met Charles. And I specifically remember, like, Charles, we went to a meeting. And then after the meeting, I don't know if you remember this, but after the meeting, we started talking about our kids. And we might have been standing outside downtown Charlottesville for like 2 hours. And I said, you know what, this might work out.
See, Riz, I'm out.
Oh, you ain't trust me when I told you.
I already did. This might work out. But on the real, I can just say that being around this station and being around you guys has not only helped me become a better person. I learn more about myself. I know I can tell, and I'm not just saying this, from when I started to now, I'm a much better broadcaster because of just being around you guys. And my sister Maxilia.
She crying right now, bro.
Max, don't cry. Don't
I'm not crying.
But my sister Max, but
they Max, my eyes a little watery.
I know that she's crying right now.
But even with Max, always appreciating having that, just the nurturing and that feminine spirit that is so needed, because sometimes our voices can be overcoming. And Max has always been the one to get us back in order and to get us back in line. And, I consider you guys as a family.
Absolutely.
And the last thing is that for all of us, and I can even just say for myself, is that being able to honestly communicate with Black people is something that this show has enabled us to do and will continue to do. Because there was a point in time to where I can even say for myself, I was nervous about doing it because of like repercussions. But you guys have the platform in creating an atmosphere to not only am I not scared of the repercussions, I embrace them.
Yeah, you're right. You're right. With what you're saying, man, this show and what you brought to it in Charles and Max for sure taught me how to talk to Black people and not at Black people.
And also other people, and also other members of the community, because we talk to everybody. And I think that, there's people out there that, and this is just journalism, just a lesson in broadcasting. We'll move on to the next topic. But, some people get on this and they hear Razor and they want Razor to shut up and they want him to keep talking. And then they hear Charles, they want him to shut up and they want him to keep talking. And they're like, Max is annoying. And, but sometimes I like her. Or AAY, he talked too much. But the beauty is that we created an atmosphere to where we can do that.
Started the conversation.
And that's the point.
And it's in my humble opinion, so they can get out my face.
Right.
Exactly.
That's the point. But no, on the real, I love you guys. I remember we was in the small room. It was hot over there. It's hot in here. So when we were separated, we were separated.
Get hotter when you go. We
were separated, and I appreciate it. I remember we were separated, and Max and I would talk, and that's when I got to know Max. Is this in the middle of breaks? You get to know people, and relationships are beautiful, and I just appreciate you guys. Blessings upon your families, health, your businesses, and everything you got to grow exponentially. But I'm also excited about my new chapter, my new journey, and I appreciate you guys supporting me as well.
No doubt.
All right, we got through that.
All right.
I got some business. I got some.
Yeah, who got them onions under here?
I got onions.
That's my ass up.
The allergies, bro. I got terrible allergies. So, but now, on kind of a serious note, like, since we got you in studio, Ron, that we alluded to it earlier. There's a spike in evictions right now.
Yeah, absolutely.
So as you guys know how we do IMHO, we've had housing folks on here. We've had different folks talking about the government resources to help us out during COVID, where so many people got furloughed, got laid off, all that kind of stuff. Hey, Ron, I know this is right up your alley. I didn't even prep you for it, but man, like, what are you seeing? What is your hope, like, for that? Like, for that market, like, what is the discussions right now when it comes to folks that thought they were going to be okay, but then realized that, that after a while, you don't work, you don't eat. But sometimes that is, because of the other elements. Like, there's so many elements that go into, as y'all say in y'all field, the market. Quote unquote, the market. So what are you saying in the market right now when it comes to the spike in eviction?
I think that it's a loaded question. So one of the things is, obviously, people have to remember the context of everything. And so the federal government, at the beginning of the COVID pandemic, decided that since we're involved in something that we've never seen, and let's be clear, the federal government caused businesses to literally shut down for a certain period of time. Retailers, small businesses, and people weren't getting any income, therefore they couldn't pay those housing costs. They had certain programs in place to where families could be covered for a certain period of time. But I think what people have to remember is that everything is a market. So when landlords are out there servicing a debt themselves, they're also not receiving any income from a tenant. And so I know that's not the popular narrative is that, oh, the landlord should have $10 million and they should just be able to cover the mortgage. Most landlords in America, they are not corporate landlords. They're everyday people. I'm a landlord, and they're everyday people like you and I that have bills, that have expenses. And so if you're not paying your mortgage, but the state is saying I got to keep you in the property, it's now I'm paying the mortgage. So now I'm
not living in
a house. So I'm taking on the burden of the family. And a lot of landlords, as you're now to see now, I know people. I listen to a lady on YouTube. Her name is Erica. She's on the Classy Clown. Shout out to her. She's got people in Detroit, Razor. They ain't paid a mortgage in 2.5 years. And they're still servicing a debt. And the states are making it hard to evict people. So now what do? You're starting to see all these people that get evicted. So there's two sides to it. There's the landlord side, but now we're on the consumer side. For the consumers, and I've said this, it ain't personal. You can't, at this point, you have to be responsible and try to figure out ways to protect your family. Some people have a lack of income problem, and some people have a debt problem. If you solve both of those problems, you will figure out a way to get secure housing. You cannot depend on the state to fund you. Because as we see in a capitalistic environment, guess what's going to happen? I'm going to let Charles want to raise the rent $3,000 and somebody going to pay it. Guess what? They're going to allow that. You can't expect builders, even though it's necessary, to try to build quote unquote affordable housing. They're not incentivized to do that. So from a consumer level, if housing is going up, a couple things we do, and we talked about this before, increasing incomes, families getting together. Families getting together. So if you have a mother, you might have an elderly parent, or guess what? I've seen that in different family occasions. Now people are living together. Relationship wise, I know Max was joking, but people are getting together to save money. Also, reduction of debt. At this particular point in time, if you know that housing is getting higher, you have to reduce as much of your consumer debt as possible. Get into a budget.
I'm sorry, I didn't want to cut you off.
No, you're good. What do we got?
I was gonna say, that because this all feeds into the business as well, right? So one thing we're seeing that in Charlottesville, we're also seeing in Charlottesville that there are a lot of places, which is the landlords, even if it's business and not business and not just residential, right? Landlords,
commercial, right?
Yeah, commercial and not just residential. Landlords are able to charge like an inordinate amount of money, or at least ask for it.
Right.
And if you don't rent, or if you say you can't pay it, and they're like, okay, whatever, because they also have gotten subsidized.
Absolutely, yeah.
So that's if you really wrap your brain around that, what's the thoughts on how you even go about fixing that? Because a lot of times people have pointed the fingers at the White House or whatnot, when it comes to folks not wanting to work or whatnot. But if folks are able to get a check and not work, you're gonna take a check and not work. But then that's gonna lower the labor force, right? But then we're gonna run into this issue that we're running into now. That government stimulus is gonna stop coming.
And
then that's gonna lead to that's gonna lead to to then noticing this high rates of unemployment.
It's gonna lead to crime.
Oh, it's gonna lead to all.
But are they seriously, when you think about Charlottesville has one housing complexes where they trying to evict 30, 40 families. Are you seriously about to evict that many people?
That's what they say. Listen, let me explain something to you. You would be surprised, because the problem is that it's with any area, whether it's gentrification, whether it's capitalism or anything, those people are just going to become that. And that's why I am a huge proponent of buying something or figuring out a way if your family has a home, because when you don't own anything, you don't control anything. You control nothing. And so now those people that are renting, guess what? They don't even control their future. The government moves them around like chess pieces.
Can I play devil's advocate for a second?
Absolutely.
Okay. We as a community don't understand money, right?
Absolutely.
And because we don't understand money, we don't have value in it beyond what's monetary or what we can see.
Right.
Because that's the problem. And because we allow the government to become our gatekeeper, daddy, so to speak.
And they've been there. I mean, you think about it. I didn't mean to cut you off, but I want people to look at. I want you to look at institutional slavery, moving Black people around, and then I want you to look at today with gentrification, redlining. It's the same game.
But I don't know if that's the case though, Aaron. That's why I said I got to play devil's advocate for a second. People are choosing, regardless of what Charles is saying about their check, not to work. People are choosing not to go out here and get a better job because these companies need. You can get a job that you're not qualified for because the company needs somebody, right? So wait a minute. So if you have taken advantage of not paying your rent for 12, 18, 24 months, and then the hammer come down, is it anybody's fault but yours?
I'm gonna say this.
Yes or no?
No. But I'm gonna say this. I think that the problem is tenfold because what you're saying is correct. Is that people are not responding to people spend more time worrying about other things that don't affect their economic situation than things that should. You know, the Fed comes out and they speak about interest rates and things of that nature every Wednesday. I could put a picture of Jerome Powell on the board right now. Nobody know what he looked like. Yeah. So there are things that we need to start focusing on. The problem is that 10 years ago, somebody, and Charles is a perfect segue, somebody could have drove a bus and been able to take care of their family and their wife or husband was a custodian. We're talking, manual labor, and they would be able to purchase a home or purchase a piece of land and build something. Those wages have not even increased significantly at all for that to change. So like, for example, in Culpeper County, like you guys have, we have a major bus issue to people driving school buses. So much so to where I know 2 teachers that are being paid basically overtime to drive the buses in the afternoon. The problem is now, but I want you to understand something. The teachers don't mind because they care and they have good salaries. The problem is that for an individual bus driver, for that to be their job, there's no way you can survive on $15 an hour and you're driving something 3 hours a day.
But have you put yourself in a position where you're only making $15 an hour?
This is something I'm going to say. Okay, there is a segment, and it's not just Black people; it's everybody in this country. There's a segment of the population that is going to have labor, that is going to have to be the labor. Right. Period. You can't want good service, but then be like, pay the server $2 an hour. Yeah. That ain't gonna work. Like, okay, that's not gonna work. Right. So the labor has to be compensated properly. The teachers have to be compensated properly. Yeah. The police officers. So 2 things are gonna happen. If stuff keeps going up, and this is what the Fed was talking about, that police officer that's making $45,000 in about 2 years, he's probably gonna make $75,000. Right. Because in order for you to have a competitive, productive economy, you can't keep wages that low. And I'm not talking about and qualify. I'm not just talking about your raising it $15 an hour. I'm talking about the people that are the structure of what we do every day.
But have you put yourself in that position? Is my question.
Yes and no, because everybody's not going to have a high-paying job, but the people that are out here building the bricks and things of that nature. They need to be. I'm going to say they need to be compensated properly.
So that's the best part-time. So can they get a part-time job?
The problem is that when we, and I want Max to go, but the problem is that that's the reason why we have such an ineffective society in many ways is because when we have single mothers or single parents that are working 2 jobs, how do you sustain a family with time? See, when we don't have time, Jimmy, Mikey, Raheem, Keisha, whoever you want to name, Jane, Ann, Mary, they go out there and they have time to themselves to make bad decisions. When people have time, you can raise your family. You can have an impact on your children. You can do all these things.
But you chose to have those kids.
Right. I understand what you're saying. But there was a time. This is what I'm saying. There was a time in this country.
Yesterday's price is not today's price.
I understand. But think about it. There was a time in this country to where a guy could work at a plant. Max could stay home, raise the kids. May not be balling out of control, but the family was sustained. Now that because of inflation and the cost of everything is differently, we have a work society, but look at the results of that society. So I'm not disagreeing with you. I'm saying it's a big pot of gumbo and nobody knows the right ingredients to put in.
I know the right ingredient. People lazy.
Go ahead, Max. What you and I do want to say something, but hold on. Before Max goes, I want to say something. Statistically speaking, most of the time, people are not just ignoring and paying their housing. Most people, if they can't pay the bill, they can't pay the bill.
And how many of them got iPhones?
Right. And and so something I wanted to add to Aaron saying yes and no as far as the individual being to blame for the situation that they're in right now, is that we have to keep in mind that that free, well, not free money, but that money that was put in the hands of people were given to people who didn't exactly have financial literacy.
Absolutely.
So yes, and not to say that they didn't need the money. I mean, heck, we all needed it during that time, but it's not like they received it and then thought about, okay, let me pay up on this bill, pay up on that bill. At some point, I'm going to have to pay my rent again. So let me put a little bit on my rent here and there. No, those people were more than likely trying to survive before COVID even hit. And so when they received that money, they looked at it like a little bit of breathing room, a little bit of fun. I ain't got no bills. I'ma live a little bit. I'ma live like I ought to be able to live instead of struggling day to day. So they went out, they bought the TV they wanted. Well, I think you cannot blame the individual entirely because of certain institutional things, but then also certain choices. They didn't have the foundation they needed to be good stewards with the money.
So they have access to the World Wide Web. They can look up everything on TikTok.
Come on.
No, I'm just saying. I'm playing devil's advocate. I'm playing devil's advocate. Because this is what
I can answer your question. No, I can answer
this is
your
what
question.
we go against, right? Because we know these things that help our people, but we don't look at it from the viewpoint of the person that holds us back, that says, yes, you can get more money for this check, or no, you can't. So what I'm doing is what y'all are doing is what we always do. When somebody rebuttals us with something we don't want to hear, we have no true answer for it. So we can't make nobody change the way that they treat us or what we do.
I'm not gonna. All right, so let me say this. I'm not even gonna say the way they treat us. We talk about this a lot on this program, to where people are not aware that they are involved in an economic war, and that to me is the problem. Because if you know that you are involved in economic warfare, I'll use myself as an example. I've been maxing out my 401k for years. It's because I know that the Fed can institute policies like they're doing right now to where they can raise interest rates 30% and I can't do anything about it.
Yeah.
I'm aware that I'm in economic warfare. I'm aware that the housing market, when they boomed it up, I benefited from it. I'm also aware that when the Fed decides we want consumer interest rates to be at 30%, time out, wait a minute, that means more people are going to be borrowing money. I need to be cash heavy. The problem is most people don't realize or even understand they are in an economic warfare. They're just living day to day. It's like putting a soldier on a battlefield that's been trained and putting somebody out there that hasn't. One dude just gonna walk out there with his gun in his hand and get shot. The other dude's gonna get low, get behind a bunker, try to figure out a strategy. So it's just different individual tactics and things of that nature.
But how long do we use it as an excuse?
It's not even an excuse. There's casualties of war.
No, I'm asking though, because when
as a community,
when it happens to when you grow up and you have less,
right,
and you don't have the structure that's been taught to you in order to operate, right? And then you have children that you try to do the best for them,
right?
And then you have limited education and you have limited opportunity. Eventually, as you go around the sun, that has to stop being your excuse.
I'm with you.
That's all I'm saying. I'm playing devil's advocate for a second. It's not even because we don't never deal with this as a community. You know what I'm saying? Like we show up for whatever we can get free or a discount. We don't take the hard route and say, community, we effing up.
Razor, when you function as if you are in a war, you will act like when you are in a war. And there's a bunch of people. And it's not just black men, it's white men.
No, I'm talking about our community.
But black Americans.
I'm not saying black. I'm just saying in our community.
Oh, yeah. Well, if you think about it, if you don't think that you're in a war and you just function as every day is good, then guess what? You will not be prepared when it's the fan. You won't be. And that's the difference in mentality.
I think the answer, Razor, is that there is more than one answer. And so, yes, there is some onus that our community needs to accept, especially if you know better, especially if you know better. So yes and no, they are at fault for the situation that they may find themselves in right now.
Right.
Now, but now we in it. Now we in it,
I mean, yeah.
and now we
It's problem solving.
yeah, and yeah. So now you got to problem
Exactly.
solve and hopefully learn something and do better next time.
But we're not problem solving. We're still surviving.
Right.
And the way of surviving is who can give me what instead of what I can do. That's the problem with our community.
Right. I think it has to be in reference to not only surviving, but there's enough liquidity on this planet for you to get your own. And each person individually in your family, you have to be saying to yourself, how much out of this world can we get?
Absolutely. And that's what I'm saying. Like you have to understand as a community what is benefiting us and what is keeping us in the same place that we've been.
Right.
And yes, I'm passionate about what I'm saying because I see it year after year after year, right? We can recognize it when it's people that don't do nothing in their lives and they end up in the same position. You know what I'm saying? Like when we was high school, they still living off that. They won't progress. They just stuck on the heyday. But when it comes to economic growth, if we can get out of kids going back to school with $500 worth of stuff on their body and the light bill getting ready to get cut off, it's crazy to me. We're not calling ourselves to the carpet.
Well, the problem
we're too educated in 2022 to be making the same mistakes.
Yeah, and before we go to break, but it's not even just that, because sometimes I don't like those talking points, in my opinion, because the average American doesn't even have $1,000 to cover themselves if they're in an emergency. So we have, as a group of just humans in this part of the world, we have economic issues. The issue is always the same thing, is that you have to focus and vote and be politicized in the things that affect your economic group. There are more people worried about what's going to happen to somebody on the internet than they are worried about their own financial home economic situation. Like, I don't need to worry about Lotto or the baby or Kim Kardashian if my family and I, or my lady and I, are trying to buy property and do this and do that. Razor doesn't have enough time to worry about what's going on down the street with Chico and his homies, because he and Max and his family, they are trying to build something economically individual. And then you begin to make decisions based upon, okay, who represents my group?
Yeah.
I'm not going to vote for Uncle Joe. Uncle Joe's canceling student loan debt. Did that affect my group?
Yeah.
No. So I'm not putting energy into that. Yeah. I'm not arguing with nobody on the internet because I don't have no student loan. That don't affect me. Focus on things that affect your own individual group. Yeah. And if you focus on that, that doesn't mean you're not going to have problems. You'll be prepared for when those problems arise.
The problem I had with the voting part,
control what you can control.
Control what you can control.
Charles, this is the problem I had with, we speak good stuff as a whole, as a nation, as a community, about getting out and voting and everything, right? But when I just read the other day that Apple has more money than certain countries, Apple, right?
They sell products everybody buy.
Exactly.
You got earphones.
But they sell products, but everybody buys products they can't afford. That's the problem.
That's debatable, honestly. That is
how
debatable.
Is that debatable?
I'm telling. Listen,
you can afford it till you can't.
That's debatable. And listen, if everybody's gonna go buy $1,000 phone, Apple ain't gonna stop making them.
Absolutely not. That's what I'm saying. But I'm saying, where does it come to? What's the reason that we buy Apple phones? Is it that much better? Does it? I mean, what does it do? Is it a status symbol? Because that's what it is for a lot of people. Like I hear people say, if you text me and don't come up blue, I ain't answering.
Yeah,
y'all done heard that.
Are there a lot of opportunities for financial literacy in Charlottesville?
Yeah,
for the lower income population.
Yeah, there's definitely some out there, but let's hold on to that thought because we are way over. But we're gonna get back to the conversation.
We don't care.
But
That's your fault. Ain't you the octopus? Ain't you the octopus?
You see what happens?
I am HM.
Yeah. Nah, I had to play devil's advocate for that, man.
Listen, some people listen. It's casualties of war.
Nah, I'm with you 100%. But the problem is, don't everybody think like we think. You know what I'm saying?
You got to focus on your group.
Yeah.
And your group is whoever's in your house.
Yeah. Well, that's the thing. The way the government making it, they make like if they make everybody pay students.
I lost the sound. Is that on my end?
I can hear you now.
Okay.
Oh, oh, this is a yes. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. So, hey, this is Max. I'm sorry. Who's this?
This is JAEWAR.
Okay. I'm having to use my phone. For whatever reason, my audio was distorted on my computer. So the screen is really small.
I'm using my phone today too. It's all good.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
On the
All
road.
right. So I am actually going to step away for a moment and check on kids. So the studio does have us muted, but they'll turn the sound back on, a few seconds, 30 seconds, a minute or so before we come back on live. So I'm sure Charles will talk to you then.
Okay, we're live, right?
We are live.
Cool.
Yep. All right.
All right, y'all, here we go. In my humble opinion, talk show on our flagship station right about now, WVAI 101 Jams, your home for interactive today's classics, hip hop, and R&B. Sir Charles, Miss Max, Razor, Ron, and the boots in the building for the bottom of this here show, y'all. And we're gonna keep the hits coming. And Miss Max, I apologize. I didn't want to cut you off like that, but the short answer to your question was yes. There's resources here, and we're gonna get back to that conversation after we talk to our next guest right here. So man, yeah, we still got an hour show left, y'all. Tell a friend. We streaming worldwide right about now, even if they're outside of our listening area. But to help continue with our business discussion, like we said, Black business awareness. There's an entity that started, y'all probably seen the logo. It was like a Queen Charlotte inspiration, and yes, Queen Charlotte, where the name Charlottesville comes from. She was a Black queen, which of course schools don't want to talk about that, but but folks in the know, and there are pictures of her. But a lot of good folks. I was happy and privileged to be on one of the initial steering committees, and one of the folks that are continuing that work right about now is y'all may know the brother JAEWAR of Vibe Riot fame, but helping with the Discover Black CVILLE folks. Jay, my brother, how you doing today?
What up? Feeling good. How y'all doing?
Man, blessed, bro.
Well.
Yep.
Blessed on this Sunday, man. I know there's so much that you have on your plate that you can talk about, that you can give when we talk about just business, right? Like handle how to be better, provide better customer service, how to better market ourselves. But in particular, the need for Discover Black CVILLE. For the folks who may not be knowledgeable about it, what it's about. Go ahead and give us the landscape of what Discover Black CVILLE is.
So basically, it's plain and simple. We wanted to make sure we had a good outlet that represented the Black voice of Charlottesville, and so we wanted it to be for us, by us, basically. And you mentioned earlier Queen Charlotte. She's a little bit controversial depending on who you talk to. Some people love the representation, some people don't. And so our initial thought was, Queen Charlotte. And after that, we said, you know what, let's not think of Queen Charlotte necessarily in historical fashion, because since there's arguments about whether that's the right way to do things or not. And so just in case some people are listening, I just want to make sure I put that out there, that we chose a young Black queen from today's world, today's age, currently living in Charlottesville, to be represented, to represent us. And so, because we'll catch a lot of flack if I don't make sure that's clear,
Yeah, and the young queen you're talking about, that mural is at X Park, right?
Yep.
What's the reason for the flack? I'm a little behind.
So I'm not gonna say these aren't my views necessarily, but there was some saying that since Queen Charlotte was royalty and had Portuguese blood, I believe, that she somehow was, I'll just say, either passive or accepting, or not aggressively enough going against the institution of slavery and the slave trade, the triangle. And so, again, not my views. And so I don't want to say they're right or wrong, but there were some strong voices that had that opinion. And so we said, okay, we hear that, we're going to respect that. Not everybody has to necessarily agree 100% with that, but we're going to respect that, And so that's why I wanted to clarify that, Yeah.
And I hope I didn't cut you off. Did you finish your thoughts about the intro?
Oh, and so essentially we just wanted to make sure that we were telling our stories and make sure that was a part of the conversation about what is going on in Charlottesville, who all lives in Charlottesville, who's doing business in Charlottesville, who's doing what in Charlottesville, and make sure that was known. That was a part of the greater communication when people think about what's happening in Charlottesville. Is it safe for Black people? Are Black people even there, or have all the Black people left? Are they doing things that other Black folks might be interested in going there to see? And basically just so that we who are there aren't on this island, being misrepresented to the rest of the nation, the rest of the state, or the region even, you know what I mean? And so in a nutshell, I think that essentially captures what the goal was.
Yeah. Now, Charlottesville being a small town, and we who have been here and have done business here and otherwise, know that as with a lot of small towns, it has its own, niches, right? Like it has even its own cliques, its own corners. So how does Discover Black CVILLE fit in? And when I say that, I mean, we have things like Minority Business Alliance. We've had different people, different groups, trying to get us together, trying to, like to give us more shine and whatnot. Like, so when it comes to working with the community, I mean, what's been the take on that as far as where Black CVILLE, Discover Black CVILLE fits in to the landscape here and folks you've worked with in the community?
So, we're trying to do our best. Nothing is perfect in this world, right? But we're trying to do our best to be a partner to everybody and to overlap and either support, wherever we're wanted or initiate, whatever seems to be a need. And so we try to represent all the different groups, all the different perspectives, some of the groups you mentioned. Everybody's welcome to participate. Now, of course, it's more efficient when you have a smaller group, but you're trying to represent a larger group. We see that work well or not well in different levels of government or different levels of any community, any kind of organization, right? And so we try to invite everybody to participate and try to have members of steering committees who can represent different demographics, whether it's age, whether it's different industries, whether it's elder in the community, or whether it's somebody who we feel is like young, hip, ears to the street, and just trying to like make sure we can cover the different kinds of, within you think Black community, and some people are like, that's like one thing, right? But just like any other group, there are so many different looks, angles, ways of being, ways of thought. And so we're just trying to have diversity within our community represented by, what we support and what we do and what we initiate. And so hopefully it overlaps all the good things and adds something that, maybe wasn't happening before, sheds a light on something, just kind of give a platform, just like you guys do here with the radio. You give a platform, to a lot of different folks, a lot of different groups, and, and you're spreading the word, like you can have your ears to the street and have it broadcasted across the radio, right? And so
that's right.
Just trying to be a player in that.
JAEWAR, I noticed that you choose your words carefully, right, when you speak.
Because he's sharp.
Does it? Yeah. And but my question would be,
trying not to offend.
Right. How difficult is it to say that you're trying to promote Black people, Black businesses, outside of talking to Black people?
So I think with the current atmosphere, that there's a lot more people who understand better now who maybe didn't before. Phrases like all people matter, like why that's like not appropriate and not even relevant to the current conversation, right? And so I think in some ways it's easier now. People are like, yeah, we understand, we get it, like a lot of non-Black folks now are starting to open their eyes and realize, okay, that is important, and this doesn't take away from what I'm doing, you know what I mean? And so I think it's getting easier. And I think that also the people who are still like having issues with that, like now it's like easier to be like, okay, you're probably part of the problem. Like, even if you're not aggressively part of the problem, like obviously like you still don't get it. And it's 2022. Like we've known since day one. Some of y'all finally figured out on day 1,000 and 2,100, whatever, you know what I mean? But like those of y'all, the shrinking number of people who don't get it and who are innocent, like really don't exist to me no more. You know what I mean? Like unless you're under a rock. And so I think because of that, it's making the conversation easier to have. You know what I mean? Does that answer your question?
Yeah. I know how to talk in a way that I can manipulate my words to get my point across without offending, unless I want to.
Right.
And I noticed that you were doing the same. I noticed that you was doing the same thing. So
what school did you go to, JAEWAR?
I went to Virginia Tech.
Okay, I mean, because I was thinking like maybe you and Razor had the same like literary.
Oh yeah, I went to the penitentiary. That's how I learned.
So I mean, that's a good point. Like you go to a school that's predominantly white, live in a country that's predominantly white, you know, and so especially and regardless of school, where any kind of like you start finding yourself being given more platforms and becoming more successful at in any kind of way, eventually at some point, depending on what you're doing, you're gonna find yourself mixed up with a lot of people who don't look like you. And if you want to continue to be successful, you know, like some people say like it's code switching, whatever, and some people are cool with that, some people are not cool with it. But it's just like at some point you're like, do I want to get in the door, or do I just want to be on the outside of the door talking about what happens in the door? And so you start figuring out where it's like, all right, maybe I code switch, but guess what? I'm in the door and I can help somebody who doesn't want to code switch.
Yeah.
So like, are you gonna hate me because I code switch, or are you gonna be like, all right, we got a brother inside the door? You know what I mean?
So a question that I have for you too is it is connected to the CVILLE Tourism and Visitors Bureau, right? Like so, like so, what's some of the goals around that? You know, as far as when people look up Charlottesville, right? You know, folks know about Monticello.
Yeah.
You know, and of course that tells one side of our history. But, you know, like folks look up different hiking and, you know, all the things that traditionally Charlottesville's been known for, UVA, whatever. Like, so what's some of the goals with Discover Black CVILLE and that connection with the Visitors and Tourism Bureau?
So you know, there's a lot of Black businesses in Charlottesville. So the obvious thing is to make sure that they're seen, they're heard. There's a spot where people who are like, hey, I want to find out what Black business does this, you know, here's a list, you know, that maybe you can find them on. Other things like what you mentioned is, you know, Charlottesville is known for like wine and like hiking and nature and just like the beauty of the landscape, right? But I don't know, like, I don't know if this is your guys' experience, but I know a lot of times there are certain activities that, you know, growing up, my boys would be like, oh, that's white people's stuff. You know what I mean? I don't know if I can curse on here, but you know, that's white people's stuff.
No, can't do that.
Yeah, I caught myself. But you know, but then, you know, it's not really. It's just, you know, like people grow up different ways, people are experiencing different things, and so wanted to show that, hey, if you want to try this, you don't have to feel funny about it. There are Black people out here doing that too, doing this too, you know, in the wineries, like hiking, like kayaking, you know, might not be everything that I do, might not be everything that somebody else does, but if you want to try it,
make it right.
Like you can find people that look like you in these different spaces. And so I think it's also trying to, in some ways, indirectly maybe break some stigmas by saying, hey, like this is not just for one demographic, like there are other things out here going on. There's actually businesses that are in this market, maybe, you know what I mean? And so come out and join us, you know? And so that's part of it.
So this is AA Ron. Appreciate your coming on. What do you say to the business owner that says, I run a quality company, but I don't have a Black business, and I actually don't want to be qualified as a Black business? I just I'm just a business owner.
Yeah. I'm a Black owner.
I'm a Black owner, and I don't want to be segmented into that market because from their perception that being a Black business has certain connotations. What do you say to that particular business owner, or also to the consumer? Because I've heard consumers out there say, I don't want to support a Black business. These are things that I've heard. So what do you say to those?
You've heard Black consumers say that?
Listen, you would be you because it's not because of what they do. It's the connotation that whether we like it or not, and it's not a true
They're
perception.
gonna get less quality.
There it is, that you're going to get less quality or the service or anything of that nature. What do you say first? Not the consumer part, but to the business owner that says, I don't want to quantify myself in that manner, and I might not want to join Black CVILLE. What do you say to that person?
So these are just my thoughts. So I don't want to.
That's why we want.
Yeah, get ready to let loose, y'all. Go ahead.
This is why you had a conversation.
So I definitely understand that, because even as an entertainer, who technically I do hip hop, right? But I don't want to be classified necessarily as hip hop sometimes in certain conversations, because all of a sudden people think they already know what I'm about. They already know how I how I perform. They already
You gotta
know the
murder somebody.
content.
Right. Right.
And so like, I feel like it's the kind of same conversation, right? And so I try to market myself in certain ways, more creative ways, so that I don't get myself kind of labeled, or as my mom would say, like back in the day, wouldn't let me grow my hair long because the teacher is gonna mark you. You know what I mean? So I had to become an adult before I had my dreadlocks and all of that. They're gone now, but my point is like, I understand that thought and that thinking. And so I can't fault anybody for having that.
Right.
All I can say is that I feel like it's gonna be more helpful than hurtful to just be in more avenues where eyes can be laid upon you. You know what I mean? And so that like I said, I get it 1000%, but I think 10 times likely that somebody's gonna find you on that list because they want to know about you, they want to come and interact with you, than find you on that list to be like, this is where I'm not going. You know what I mean?
Right.
And so like, nobody's going on that website to find out where they're not going. Nobody's looking for the Black CVILLE list to find out who they're not going to shop from. So like, even though I get it, I feel like they're just missing out on an opportunity.
Well said. Well said.
You know, I have to admit that when you started talking about the project, you know, my mind went to, when are we going to get to the point where we don't have to need a Discover Black CVILLE? Like, when are we going to normalize Black businesses or Black ownership of whatever the case might be that the Black community does in this area? When is that just going to become the normal, where we don't have to carve out certain spaces and certain platforms for ourselves, but to be considered part of the whole? White folk part of CVILLE, Black folk part of CVILLE. This is CVILLE. We are CVILLE. And some months back, I actually worked on like a People Awards project, and I remember there being some debate about the title that I chose, but I specifically chose that title because I didn't want Black people to feel like they are a subsection or a small part of a bigger piece. No, you are it the same way they are it. So yeah, so my mind just went there when you just started talking about the project initially, is when are we going to normalize Black people and what they do, and we not be part of a piece of something, but rather the something, you know?
Yeah.
So I have a million thoughts about that, but no answers. You know what I mean? And it's something that I think about all the time too, where nobody really knows that. At what point do you get to where you don't have to do that anymore? But I don't know. It's kind of as we become more successful, I feel like people stop really thinking about that. You know, there's certain places, businesses that I know, that I see, they are packed, line out the door, and like, there's white people, Black people, there's everybody going to these businesses, right? And so like, I don't think the brother who runs that is really having to think about it really hard in these segmented ways. I think he's thinking about this as just pure business. And, you know, I think that once you get to a level, maybe I'll use my words carefully, like maybe it's a level of success, or enough people in the area know you, regardless of what color they are, then you stop having to really think about that. On the flip side of that, go ahead.
I didn't want to cut you off. You can finish.
On the flip side of that, I've seen where it seems like members of the community want to kind of say, this is our thing. And so it's almost counterintuitive to the thought, to the question, where that question is coming from. It's almost counterintuitive to that, to where, you know, I've seen people, and I personally caught flack for something outside of Black CVILLE, because they were like, they didn't consider something that was for them, or was the intention was, this is for us, but it wasn't black enough. It wasn't obvious enough.
Yeah.
And to where it's just like, so you're trying to find this line between, I just want to be a successful business.
Right.
But I love my
goal.
people.
Right.
Yeah.
But
So
I love my people, right? So it's like, of course, I want to be successful. I want my people to enjoy this with me. I want my people who are working with me to enjoy this. And I want it to just be that. But I do want to cater because I want to uplift because maybe we haven't had this before, or maybe we just got this. And so like, I want this to grow with us in mind, but I don't want it to be stagnated by that either. So it's just like this back and forth where it's just like, I don't know the perfect answer to that. You know what I mean?
Yeah, Jay and Max, like so my thought and my solution that I would have for that, like first the thought is that like it's another form of the reverse psychology, right? Of that we found ourselves in a situation to where we weren't getting the same level of support, or we were getting denied business loans, like, you know, the list goes on and on. So then we needed to formulate specific support around Black business, you know? And so the fix then would be is if it's a fair playing game.
Yeah.
And but I think we still see to this day, Aaron, even within mortgage companies, we still see how Black folk get red marked. You know what I mean? Absolutely. And so we don't want it to be that way. But you need it. You know?
Yeah. Now this is all of this is part of the equation, right? And so I think that the more you see Black folks, or I'll say Black and brown folks, become more successful and coming back and giving back and trying to like almost like, I don't want to use these words, but I don't know how else to say it, but like make up for us being redlined and not given certain opportunities, you know, to the point where we start actually being able to become in those positions, those gatekeeper positions, you know what I mean? So that the level field gets more even, you know, then we'll start being able to have the conversation without segmenting, you know what I mean?
Yeah, I'd like to get my thought on that.
Yeah, go ahead.
Real quick. It goes back to what Aaron said earlier about. I won't go that way. All right, let me take it a different direction. Black unity is threatening.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. We understand that. So I'll say it this way: as Aaron said, as we know that we're in a war, or don't know that we're in a war, then you're unprepared. So if we understand that Black unity is a threat, then the fact of when people have a negative connotation or look at us like we shouldn't say, okay, this is for Black people, this is built by Black people, like it just has to be okay. Like it's going to offend because people have the ideology that for you to gain, it takes from me. Like Richard Spencer said about the totem pole, you know, aspect. So in my opinion, especially from where we just moved from, I was a Black owned business, but 80% of all my clientele was white. You know, that's where I resided at. Okay. So I learned, I didn't even have to code switch. Like I gave a product that superseded it being looked at something Black.
Yeah. If you're solving enough problems, then nobody care what you do.
Right. But the issue is that the product that I was given was also a stereotype. You know, when most people go to a Black town, what they look for? I need to find out where I can eat and a barbershop. When they look up something, right? So that was the field I was in.
Some bundles too.
Right. Yeah. But so I think what you're doing is great work. And you can't be apologetic the fact that we're gonna call it Black. Even when you said Black and brown, it kind of turned my stomach. Because I always feel like we gotta add other people to make it palatable for somebody else. Good point. I'm not for that.
And that's to Max's point too, is that like now you got every quote unquote minority group like they want their own section, you know, they want their own thing. So I feel like that boat has left. That boat's left the shore to where I don't think it's no turning back of not having these classes. Because you can go on Google Maps now and there's the subsets for every, you know, for whatever you search for.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? The classifications. But you know, but also Jay, to that point, I know the last thing that I had was, you know, going forward, you know, like definitely want to hear about some of the next steps, the goals, but like how are you battling the folks who want to check the blackness, you know, because I disagree with people who've gone as far as saying black business should only be in black neighborhoods, only working with black people. Like, I feel like that's way too far, because if you want to be a successful business, you know, you can be black owned, but you need to be able to take anybody's money.
And we're not, big enough to sustain all the black businesses if we just focus straight black people. Nobody.
Right. You know, but I've heard people right here in this town say that. So Jay, my point to you is that when people see you working with the Visitor Tourism Bureau and they try to check your blackness, like, how do you overcome that?
I haven't really had too much of that.
Good.
Not directly. I don't want to speak to Scott. I wish he was here too.
Yeah, shout out to Scott. We gotta have him on.
Yeah, definitely gotta have Scott on, man. He's a beast. But I don't know. I think you kind of touched upon it earlier, where, you know, if we're like 15% or whatever it is of the population, if we're gonna only, you know, the different businesses split that 15% 30 ways, nobody's gonna be able to eat off of that.
Circulate that dollar.
Make it work.
Yeah,
you know,
the crumbs now.
You spot on, Jay. But Jay, but before we let you go, though, what's some of the final words? Make sure folks know how to reach you, on the social medias, and I don't know if if there's any projects or any involvement you're still looking from the community.
So there's a lot of stuff that's in the works that we're just talking about. You know, we wanna have events that kind of help, because events are some of the best ways to kind of highlight what's going on, bring people together, get conversations across the community when everybody's together in one space. So we're always looking to kind of piggyback upon. So especially the tourism department, they don't create events. They don't really create events. You know, so what they're looking is, what events are we, the community, creating, and then which ones can't directly support everyone the same exact way, but what support can we give to each one, you know, and trying to just see it in time to give it visibility ahead of time, you know, things like that. And I think the best way that I think to keep up with everything is the Black CVILLE Instagram page. I think that's my favorite way. It's popping, you know.
Can I ask you a question?
So when you say
go ahead, Max. I'm sorry.
the CACVB supporting
Mhm.
events, now what exactly do you mean by supporting? We
There you
talking
go.
like funding, or we talking like, let me put a little picture on our website, tell somebody what's going on?
So it's across the board. It's everything.
Okay.
And so definitely trying to get, you know, it's easy to list things on the website, which is, I think, is powerful, because people come to the website for one thing and they might see 10 other things, right?
Mhm.
And highlighting it on Facebook, Instagram, and also, like,
I was
when
more
there's
so talking about the funding piece. That's all.
funding, there is a way you can apply for funding. So the funding gets a little tricky, because since we are supported by tourism, it's got to make sense for tourism. But if it does, then there's consideration for different events getting funded.
Okay.
I do got a question, Charles. Before we leave, I know we're getting ready to, end up with him. Does, in y'all opinion, this is for all y'all, besides Atlanta, do you think any towns really want to be known as a black town?
You know, it's funny you said that, and Atlanta popped in my mind a few different times during this conversation. So it's funny that now it's finally come all the way up. I think there are other towns. I think Richmond,
DC, of course.
Yeah,
Richmond.
Especially when we talking about tourism. I mean, they're not going to advocate. Hey, we got a bunch of black people in running businesses.
No.
Like, so Jay, that was one of the inspirations, right? Because I remember when one of the initial like pitch meetings for this, you had a rep from Black RVA.
Yeah. So I think you see that more so when you have a lot more of us in government, you know, in the local government. And so, like, you got that in Atlanta. You have that in Richmond. I'm not sure how long it's been that way in Richmond, but, you know, spaces like that, you know, when your mayor or your governor, or, you know what I mean? When you've got high ranking officials Black folks in high ranking spots, it's more likely. You got the population, and you got people in positions, decision making positions.
Yeah.
That's a recipe for making it a lot easier to broadcast in that manner.
Right.
Yeah, man. Thank you, Jay. I appreciate it. Like, so what's your closing comments? Definitely let the folks know how to reach out. Because you guys have a directory as well, right? So how can folks reach out to get connected?
So if you go to, it's linked off the Instagram page and off the Facebook page. That's the best way to find it, because the actual URL slips my brain at this second.
Okay.
But definitely go there, and the link is there. I believe it's Facebook, Instagram, and I think it might be on Twitter as well.
Okay.
Yeah.
Awesome, man. Appreciate you, man. Keep up the good work, man. Keep us posted, and send us some Vibe Ride tickets, bro.
We'll do.
All right, man. I appreciate you.
Always a pleasure. Talk to y'all soon.
All right, till next time.
Take care.
And as we go to a quick break, we're gonna come back. We got to hit him with an Ask Max to finish that conversation. We've been having around business and whatnot, Miss Max. But Max, once you know you getting love. Exclamation points. I see a comment that says Miss Max is back. Like they like that energy that you bring in today, Miss Max.
Well, thank you. Thank you.
And then
tell them come watch these kids so she come back up in here since you like it so much. Come watch some of these children.
Look at Razor trying to boost the economy. I like that, Razor. No, as we go to a quick break too, I got a dedication to Karen, because Karen's comment said ain't nothing straightening but straightening. So we're gonna play a little song for Karen. That's what she think about the business. All right, I ain't made you.
Right.
Thanks for having me, y'all.
Peace.
Thank you.
Peace.
Hey.
I'm about to roll this, man. Jams. It's the questions. Miss Max, it's the question. Y'all know how we do, family. Come on, expect nothing less from us. But yeah, man, we thank y'all for tuning in today. We've had a great conversation. Saying adios to Aaron. He's still gonna be on air with y'all. Still gonna be a commentator, but he's just not gonna have the studio smelling like shea butter. Yeah, that's the only difference.
I'm sitting on a full pack.
Talking business, like thanks to LANIKA, thanks to Jay.
Shout out to LANIKA.
Yeah. But Miss Max, I gotta ask Max for you.
Okay.
It's quite simple.
That's different.
Quite simple. Are we ever sad? And you know what? Let me pause myself because it's from me, but it's from conversations I've been having with folks in the community.
Okay.
Right. So so still from listeners. But the question is, are we ever satisfied? That's it. That's all I got for you, Max. Are we ever satisfied? Because I hear us talking about business. because I hear us talk about business and whatnot, and conversations in particular that I'm thinking how it fits in the day that I was having is we ask for things, right? And then a lot of times we get said things, but then we still want to point out what's wrong with those things instead of figuring out how we can help make it better or how we can improve it, like how we can support organizations, how we can support businesses. We want to point out what they ain't done yet. You follow me? So my question to y'all and Miss Max for this Ask Max is, are we ever satisfied?
I mean, I think the honest answer here is no, right? And for a multitude of reasons. We aren't satisfied. We don't want what we want oftentimes. And for us to get what we want, for us to get what we want, we run the risk of losing who we are, because what we want is what makes us who we are. And so if you take that away, then who do I become? So there's, and I'll be more specific. I'm beating around the bush like a prior guest. So I feel like we have a lot of advocates who do a lot of good work for our community. Do a lot of good work, have done a lot of good work, have a lot of potential. But that they built themselves off of what the Black community is lacking, right? And I think that when the opportunity presents itself for our communities to receive what it is that we're asking for, there's no can't think of the word I want to use, but if we get what we want, then we don't have a platform anymore. And so I think that is sometimes part of the reason why we're not satisfied. We're not happy with the results. I think that's part of it, right? Took a long time to get that out, but that's part. The other part is, we're not happy because we're getting some version of what's good for us or what we need. And so, it's legitimate when we say, no, that's not right. Those are probably the two big things that I can point out.
Yeah, Ms. Max, I'll say, like, there was a Tupac video that resurfaced recently where he actually said, his mama taught him, don't ever do nothing for free for people.
Or when he's sitting on the sofa.
Yeah, because they will use you and not appreciate you.
Absolutely.
So like wow, that cuts deep, a lot, especially for a lot of us like that are in civic services and like volunteering and things like that, because you don't want to give it up as far as helping. But I will say though that a lot of folks, folks should be rewarded for what they do. And I think, but we can't abuse that, right? Because folks will be like, oh, I thought you were here to help. But I mean, like, but that person has a livelihood to look out for as well, right? So it's always going to be that thin line, though, to where as soon as somebody sees you profiting, they're going to question, like your legitimacy. You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
But hey, if somebody's putting in work, I feel like that they should be rewarded.
Only thing free is air, and Razor, I don't even know that's free.
Nope.
I mean, what?
And I have to add though too that there's nothing wrong with us wanting the very best for ourselves and our community. There's nothing wrong with us wanting the same that any other person or community has access to. Absolutely nothing wrong with it. It never requires you keep coming back to the table saying no, this is not it, not yet.
Yeah.
Then by all means, right?
Yeah.
But if there's some serious problem solving going on, there's a real attempt to fix or rectify whatever you're dealing with or complaining about, and you're still not happy, well, sometimes you have to look at the individual and see what the real issue is there.
Yeah, I think Razor and I, we were actually just talking about this offline. You have people that are out here complaining about Uncle Joe and him canceling all that student loan debt, right? Saying, oh, why he doing that? Why he canceling student loan debt? Do you know how many things that we pay for that you don't ask nothing about? Forget about Joe, when Barack was in office, guess what you did? You paid for some taxes. Not only did you pay taxes, you paid for some drones to go blow up some people. You paid for some wars.
Yeah.
You paid for stuff you didn't even know. You built missiles.
That's true.
You did all this stuff and don't complain a peep. Yeah. But now all of a sudden, some people got a benefit and it don't affect you.
Right.
I don't want my money spent like that. You know what else? Guess what? Don't take out federal income taxes and you drive down that little janky road down the street with the potholes in it.
That's fact.
You don't want no roads.
Yeah,
that's fact.
You don't want no airlines.
Yeah.
You don't want no infrastructure.
Yeah.
Okay. Just don't pay. We're gonna exclude you from
we're gonna earmark you.
We're gonna earmark you. And so the answer to the question is people ain't never satisfied because they don't think.
Yeah.
They don't even think.
And that's the thing about about satisfaction. That's the thing because you mentioned Uncle Joe, and he's actually doing a lot of the things
he said he was going to do something.
He was going to do, right? But people still want to complain. That's my point, Mr. Max. That's my point. It's like you never satisfy it, but should
have been 20,000, Joe.
Right. But Razor, kicking it to
I'm gonna take it a different direction, Joe. I'm gonna take a different direction. Let's talk about based off of like what we were talking about with Black CVILLE. I'm gonna go the business route. Why are we ever satisfied with what we get with business in our own community? And the answer is no, for two reasons. Hurt people, which the Black community is, hurt people. You know what I'm saying? So, and then we're such a small group of the population that when we see somebody else cooking hot dogs, cooking fish, washing cars, we see ourselves and we be like, man, they ain't no better than me. Well, I'm gonna support them and make them rich for. So we say that we don't have a community of our own, but we don't support it because for whatever reason, at times, seeing somebody that looks like you succeeding hurts you.
Yeah, it does.
So I don't know as much of it not being true. I don't know if it's as much of us not being satisfied as it is, why not me?
You're a broken community.
Something else that.
Yeah, Max, go.
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, no, I was just going to say something else I want to add to that is that I also don't want to say put on Black people that is Black people that's never satisfied.
That's I said what I said.
Society at large is just not satisfied.
You see that online everywhere. Yeah. I mean, like you got YouTube videos, Ms. Max, of people making millions of views and making money off of not being satisfied.
Right.
I'm sorry.
But certain people groups do have better abilities at depending on what the subject is to be able to compromise, understand, work with and things like that. And sometimes, our people, sometimes we make that a little bit difficult. So
absolutely.
But when it's just, I'm cool with it. When it's not, it's like, all right, come on now. Come on.
You know what? I'm going down to Mike's because Razor only gave me 5 wingettes and Mike give me 7. You see them fries he put in. I mean, it's just come on, y'all.
It's just you want how much for soda? You want how to walk down 17 blocks to go over here.
And you know, I imagine that we got a lot of people listening that aren't exactly happy with our responses, but you're not listening to a show where we are not going to accept some ownness. Just not. Just you don't like it, just hit the button now. Because
that's right.
We are very fair in our thinking of when it's someone else's responsibility, when something else is to blame, then we place that blame there. But when we can help ourselves or we are contributing to the problem, then we are going to say that.
Yeah.
So, and how else can you get better? How else can a person get better without understanding that you are contributing to the problem?
That's right.
You don't serve them by acting like like they
no
don't.
one is coming to save you, as a wise man says.
Yeah. And speaking of placing blame, Aaron and Razor took all your time at the end of the last hour, Max, and so I want to make sure that that we thoroughly answered your question.
Man, I ain't been on here in 3 months, man. Y'all look at any of y'all got a chance to say something.
because you asked about did Charlottesville have, I think you said financial literacy resources, and to my knowledge, they absolutely. Well, I won't say to my knowledge, I know that they do. It's offered, but this fits that as Max, though, right? Because when things like that get offered, do we make time to go? Do we take it serious? And this also fits in, to the conversation, the debate Razor and Aaron were having in that last segment, because it's a cultural thing, but there are some of us that have the knowledge and are doing better with us and doing better with it and can be the shining example. But culturally, there's still a deep issue, to where it's not enough of us.
But I also want to say that I realize that discussing your finances, being realistic with that and all your credit being jacked up and no savings and this and that's a sore subject. That is a really hard thing to talk about, especially with somebody I don't know. And and especially if you fall within a certain income bracket, because you don't. It ain't exactly easy to talk to somebody about. You feel like those conversations are reserved for people making $60,000, $80,000, $100,000 plus per year, not somebody that's earning 25 and just trying to keep the lights on.
Every penny counts.
But you can't. Go ahead.
No, go ahead, Max. Go.
No, I was just gonna say you can't help yourself. You obviously have the problem because you don't understand how to fix the problem, and so you just gotta step out and go to people that can instruct you on how to fix it, and then follow those steps in order to put yourself in a better situation.
That's right.
And I was just going to say, Max, that actually goes full circle back to our first guest. Shout out to that Black educator, to where sometimes you have to have a little empathy, have a little love, have a little compassion, to where the people will come to you and not feel so threatened, and they'll be in a safe space. So as professionals, myself included, Razor, all of us have to make sure that we're inviting. That we have an inviting spirit to help people, because sometimes we can, people have egos.
Give me something else to do.
Yeah,
I ain't good at that.
Yeah,
no, I'm not. It's not that I don't want to be.
But you can provide an opportunity. But if you provide an opportunity for employment,
I can.
That's what I'm saying. We just have to make ourselves available in whatever our gifts and capacities are, and that's what that young lady did. And hopefully, if we do the same thing, we can have the same level of impact.
I think that's a perfect way to close right there. Miss Max, Razor, Aaron, yours truly, Sir Charles. Take him home, Miss Max. We good?
Yeah, I think we good. Good show. Thank you to the listeners.
Yeah, thank you. Black businesses, keep supporting us. Let's come together. CVILLE. Aaron, safe travels, my brother.
Appreciate y'all.
That's right. I will be expecting my shea butter packages.
And my filter fish. All that stuff you be doing.
Well, appreciate y'all, man. It's been a blessing and a pleasure.
Yeah, you still better pay for my dinner when you're in town.
Lies.
All right, I made sure y'all. Make sure y'all follow up with us. Follow the social media. You can review this show. Stay tuned for Clean.
Good show.